The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Live tonight for the Myrtle Beach Speedway, LSRTV. Happy to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the Championship eSports Association 2017 Cars eSport Tour. Tonight, live from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Happy to have you with us, as always, on LSRTV, your home for sim racing and iRacing Live, as we head into week number 11 on this 2017 campaign into tonight's Fall Brawl presented by ProTech Custom Gear LLC. Want to welcome you topside as always to the LSRTV booth. Myself, Evan Pasoko, accompanied by Austin Coop and Tony Stevens topside tonight. And Coop, we're going to get the night kicked off before we go feature race racing in a little bit with an LCQ coming up right now for 35 laps.
Yeah, we're going to have about 6 guys come in, and they're going to be, or the top 6 in this group of 26 are going to come in and try and make their way into the feature event for the Fall Brawl, and we're going to get some provisionals out there as well. So 6 guys, the top 6, they'll get in no matter what, and then we'll hand out provisionals as they roll on. But we're going to see the action kick off early with these guys, and pace might be a little bit slower for these guys, but that's only for the short run. Remember, this is based off of their qualifying time, so you might have some really fast guys in here who just didn't get a good qualifying time, or just didn't have it, or didn't get the right laps there. So we'll definitely see that. You can see that Seth DeMerch and Ricky Harden, they're going to be your front runners here at the start of this one, and you've got a lot of other drivers in here that are familiar names here on the Cars eSport Tour.
And we'll have plenty of time over the course of tonight's 100-lap late model stock feature, which will be a regular season points-paying event for the drivers of the Cars eSport Tour. That one's going to be coming up immediately following this SLM LCQ event. And then, of course, over the course of that 150 main event, the Fall Brawl later on this evening. But as said, happy to have Tony Stevens with us tonight on LSRTV and iRacing Live. And for those who tune in on a weekly basis, and really for anybody who's relatively involved in the short track scene across the country, very familiar with both the Cars Tour and us here on the Cars eSports side of things. But Tony, happy that you're hanging out with us tonight.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Always fun to go to Myrtle Beach. Kind of disappointed that the way the Martinsville test and the race and everything shook out, that we had to cancel our date here, which would have been this past weekend. So it's kind of a bummer, but at least we get to go to the virtual Myrtle Beach Speedway. And even the virtual Myrtle Beach Speedway races just as good as the real one. The only thing I'm missing are the girls in bikinis, the sun, and the sand. Otherwise, not too bad.
And the track conditions are something that we're going to be talking about. We've mentioned it last week with the Championship eSports Association and their Myrtle Beach Simulation Series. So this is a racetrack that we've seen many a time over the last couple of weeks, now I guess months, as these seasons have began to work on. But again, tonight, a special event in the Fall Brawl a little bit later on. But this LCQ is going to be critical. Only 6 drivers are going to be able to get into the main event based on their finishing positions outside of the top 6. 2 points provisional is going to be optioned off for the drivers highest in the championship that do not make those top 6, but that means that just barely a fifth of the cars that are on track right now are going to be in our 150 lap main event a little bit later on, and that means that these 35 laps are going to be a mad dash from start to finish. Drivers are ready to go racing tonight for Myrtle Beach. Let's go trackside and take a look at our LSRTV starting grid, 5 at a time, top to bottom. Benny Ellison going to qualify on a pole position with an 18.869. He will lead Leighton Sabile off, who will join him to the outside of the front row. Familiar names back on row 2. Ricky Harden will start tonight in 3rd, with Rafe Slate rolling off in 4th, and Jonathan Smith, who rounds out our top 5.
You've got Mike Anarelli on the outside of row 3 in the 6th position. Then you've got Jacob Potter starting 7th position. Richard Reagan Jr. will start 8th. And then your 5th row tonight will be Blake Neer and Scott Austin in the 9th and 10th position.
Joe Burchett, we're going to roll off in the 11th, followed by the 4 of Randy Yoakum in row number 6. Rocky Boyd and Magnum Tate make up row number 7. And 15th place starter this evening, the 44 of John Leday.
He'll be joined on the outside of that row 16 starting position tonight for Taylor Kaufman. Reef Nobles and Aaron Crumpler going to be back and make up row number 9, 17th and 18th positions respectively. And then 19th is Jeremy Watkins, and Chris Patton rounds through our top 20.
Riding out the rest of the field, you're going to have Kenneth Askew. He'll start in the 21st position. Robbie Bunnan starts 22nd. And the last driver to make a qualifying effort is going to be Sean Cross, 23rd. And the last 3 drivers, they are just going to be at the very end of the field without a qualifying time with Seth Merchant, Tyler Simmons, and Zach Brown.
Look top to bottom at your LSRTV starting grid. Let's talk about this ever so familiar Myrtle Beach Speedway. Clock it in at just a little over a half a mile in length at 0.538 a mile every single time around this joint. Coming in with 13 degrees of banking. It is a very fun and competitive racetrack, but the biggest thing to note now is 35 laps here is going to be completely different than 100 and 150 later on. You got to buckle up right from the drop of the green flag. As always, we're happy that you're with us tonight on LSRTV and iRacing Live. Green flag in the air, and we are racing for week 11 at the LCQ for tonight's super late model main event. Bad start by Ellison.
Yeah, the 3 of Jacob Porter just went around.
Say trouble in turn 1, guys. It all started with Benny Ellison from the pole. Either spun the tires, missed a gear, or something did not go. Stacked everybody up, but I believe that was the 4 of Randy Yoakum that ended up going around over in turn 1. But certainly a chain reaction accordion effect that has us under caution already.
Porter, one of the drivers who ended up going around, and then after that caution flag it initially came out, you had guys 3 and 4 wide trying to get out of that, and Taylor Kaufman was tagged under yellow, but the drive of the 52 machine, Rocky Boyd, got into his left rear quarter panel, got him a little bit out of shape, and those drivers in the middle of the pack are going to end up with some sheet metal damage early on in this one, and it brings out a quick yellow, much to the demise of Leighton Sabile, because he had such a fantastic start on the outside of the racetrack. And in all honesty, Tony, not sure if it was him having a fantastic start or if it was just that Ellison really struggled to get going, but that 01 machine was definitely not up and on it.
Yeah, it really looked like, and going back to watch the replay, they accelerated at about the same time through the restart zone, and it's just Ellison did not go once they got up to 3rd gear. So again, not sure if he missed the gear, spun the tires, or exactly what happened, but ultimately when you're that stacked up, it's going to result in a problem. The good news is here at Myrtle Beach, you have more room than you do on most short tracks, so fortunately it was a relatively minor incident.
So checking things up early, good news for the drivers inside of the top 6. The caution flag is going to take a good little chunk out of the race laps in this 35-lap LCQ. Bad news for the drivers in the back, though, and I think that maybe you could attribute some of that contact in the initial accident itself, and then on top of that, some of the damage after the yellow flag came out, Cooper, the fact that you got drivers deep in the pack. The guys in 18th and 19th position need to get 13 spots up early. They see somebody get out of shape. The guys up front want to get out of it and avoid getting into any sort of a conflict. The guys at the back are seeing that, I think, in a very short race as an opportunity to get a lot of spots in bulk.
Yeah, I was expecting that we would have at least a caution or 2 for this race just because, you know, the top 6 positions are really coveted for these guys, and I didn't expect it to happen in the very beginning, but definitely that stack up on the inside, and maybe the 01 of Benny Allison didn't start in the right gear. That's also a possibility, or something. I think Tony said it right. They accelerated at the same time, and that was the odd thing, is that the 01 just didn't have the speed, and I'd say he was in the wrong gear or something like that, which is you know, always something that you don't want to see. But nonetheless, we're going to go restarting again here on lap 5.
It is the 25 Speed Vegas entry of Leighton Sabile, who's going to now take over the race lead in this one. He'll be on the inside for the restart as he rounded to quarter number 4. Slave to the outside of the front row as they come into turn 4 side by side. Green flag in the air, not the best start by either of them. A drag race that time to the line, door to door to turn 1.
These guys going side by side for the positions behind them. Not 25 and 98, they're clear. And look at the 21 of Ricky Harden. He's trying to come up through the outside, and it doesn't look too bad for him. And then behind him, looks like Ellison's going to continue to have issues, but they're going to get side, or they're going to get single file behind him. And then there's a massive group of cars. Why is it going to work? Oh, it's not behind them. Crash. Turn number 2.
Yoakum going to get turned, and it is a big mess in 1 and 2 as the track gets blocked. The 55 also going to get caught up in that one, and what started as just 2 drivers getting together collected about 5-6 more.
It did. You can run 3 and even 4 wide here, guys. There's plenty of room for them. For that matter, there's an equal lack of grip all around, but ultimately what happened was Yoakum was down near the rumble strips. Car behind him kind of missed the corner, got up on the rumble strips, shot him up the racetrack, and then all chaos broke loose. So tough break for those guys about mid-pack on back. The good news is, again, I was going to say, the shorter distance allows a lot of these guys to throw caution to the wind. You don't have to worry about tire management here. It's a short sprint to get in the show, and it's probably not going to be a surprise to see some guys going for broke like we just saw.
And when you took a second look at that one, especially the overhead shots, kind of showed you how spirited of a move, I guess we can call it, that was, courtesy of the 04 of Crumpler down to turn number 1. They were 3 wide in front of him at a coupe. I think that's really what caught your attention first. I saw that 22 really struggle at a turn 4. It backed up that 3 wide. Those drivers were okay 3 wide, and this racetrack, as Tony had noted a little bit earlier, wide enough to be able to make that happen a little bit more so than a place like Sobo that will be at in 2 weeks' time to round out the championship. But a very late move into the inside, and of course those curbs down on that white line in 1 and 2 didn't help out either.
Yeah, we talked about in the simulation series that you just cannot get on those rumbles, and in most of the cars that or almost any car that you run here, they're just too low to the ground, and it's going to ruin the front end of the car. Not only that, but also you can just upset the way your car acts, the tires and everything else. So we'll have another restart here on lap number 10, going to lap 11.
No changes up inside of the top 5 on that one. It was short enough that everybody was going to be able to maintain where they were. It's still going to be Sabile, Slade, Hardin, Ellison, and Smith inside of the top 5. And all but one of the drivers who started this race still run on the lead lap. Issues with Tyler Simmons. His 55 sim pit entry is on pit road and looking to get some damage repaired. Other than that, everybody's still out there. 25 cars to do battle, but we've lost 10 laps in this race already.
10 laps down, not a lot of time left. The big thing to keep your eye on here, though, guys, as always, yes, it's important to win because it helps move you up in the future, but ultimately, it is that transfer spot. Position number 6, Blake Neer has it at the moment in his Toyota. He is going to try fiercely to hold on to it over Mike Inarelli and everybody else as we get ready to go green once again.
We'll see if the 25 can get a little bit of a better jump the last time. Slate really tried to anticipate it and did so relatively successfully. This time, not even close. Green flag waves, and Sabile get a check out to turn 1. Slate safely into second as they fight side by side for third. That one to Hardin.
He started second, now he's on the point, and he's doing a really good job of making sure he can try and keep that. Meanwhile, behind him, it's just an absolute mad dash for that number 6 position. Side-by-side battles going in for the 4th and 5th position right there, and then you've got even more behind them. So many names, so many guys trying to get each position just to get them up more positions. It's kind of hard. It looks like a little bit of action on the back straightaway with the number 22 machine that appears to be Richard Reagan Jr. And they're still stacked up in turn number 4. Big wreck turn number 4.
Burchett got hit once, and that's what you saw the first time, but at turn number 2, he was just getting absolutely picked on up there. Got hit by the 22, saved it the first time, and then the 5 drove to his inside, got into him again, and that was one too many times that the 97 up top side got clipped by that 5 and sent back up the hill, and Joe Burchett was not going to give those guys that he inside any more room, Tony, that it needed to. It's just 2 spots out of a transfer spot. At the moment, was running at 8th position, but I think that those guys on the inside pushed up on him a little bit more so than maybe the pinch was the cause of that.
Well, all that really started coming out of turn number 2, and really Burchett was just kind of a passenger for that matter, but he probably had it saved until the 5-car Magnum Tate got into him, charged into turn 3 just a little bit too hard, and here at Myrtle Beach, it's very, very easy to overdrive the corners, and the way the surface is here, it's like a cheese grater to tires. You'll lose grip very quickly. All of a sudden, the nose starts sliding, and you are a passenger. And that appeared to be exactly what happened there in that particular incident. The unfortunate circumstance, though, is Joe Burchett. Well, he is apparently going to go at least 1 lap down as the crew services that car on the pit lane.
Did we caution before the green flag dropped in this one that, yes, a 35-lap race, very short LCQ event, going to be a lot higher intensity right off of the bat. This is not what we expect to see later on tonight when we go racing for 150 laps, although money is on the line come that point. I guess if you want to win the money, you got to get through this one, so that explains a lot of it. But 3 early caution flags, Coop, in the opening 50% of this race. Again, we haven't had much more than 5 green flag laps. Good news for the guys who started top 6. All but one of them still run inside of the top 6. The only driver who started outside of a transfer position and has moved into that group is Blake Deere, who started 9th and runs at 5th. Other than that, Sabile, Slate, Harden, Allison, and Smith, all where they started. And Ian O'Reilly, the driver who got bumped out, is right there on the cusp in P7.
And while you talk about that, talk about drivers that are in and out and drivers that could possibly be there. I'm looking at Seth DeMerchant right now. He was almost involved in the second caution. He actually did get a little bit of damage, so he was involved but didn't have any major issues. But he started 24th, is all the way up to 10th. Not really surprising from a driver like that, but he is coming up, and it would be, I think the cautions are actually really helping him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to get as many drivers at once as with all the action that's going on. And you do have Scott Austin, who's right there as well, and Richard Reagan Jr. He started he's at where he started. Just a lot of racing left to go for a lot of these guys, and I think if we get a long run, those top 6 are going to have a better chance at actually making the show.
Sabile once again going to control the field. He's done so, if you include this one, for the last 3 restarts, and the last one was his best. See if the 98 machine can figure out something here. If the 25 who jumped the box a little bit the first time is going to be able to do that once more. 2x2 we go halfway at the LCQ as Leighton Sabile tries to jack out, and he does. Another masterful restart going to keep him up front. Again, Slate slides to P2. Harden on the inside of Ellison trying to maintain 3rd. Now they'll fight for 4th.
Fight for 4th is down the back straightaway, and again side by side for P3. But the good news is those drivers know that position doesn't really matter as long as they can stay in the top 6 and under caution again, meaning that they're going to get a chance to do this one more time.
And this one was much further back in a pack than you would like to see, and it looks like contact between the 30 and the 52 machine. That's Taylor Kaufman, who was in 22nd, and Rocky Bird, who was in 21st position. The 30 machine appeared to be taking a move on the outside of the racetrack. Again, this really wasn't a high-intensity battle. It itself was almost a half a racetrack behind the guys up front, but the 52 had a car on those curbs again. That 5, not sure what the issue was, but Tate was very slow on the inside of the racetrack. He might have been forced down to those curbs, and I think that spooked the 52 a little bit, tried to step it up the racetrack, and unfortunately, that 30 was there, gets tagged at no fault of his own.
And the 5 actually had jumped the start pretty bad, and he's actually been removed from the race. So that is the reason, I think, for all the rubbing and racing, is because the 4 did not like that happening. Randy's a good driver, and he doesn't like to be taken advantage of. So that's why there was so much contact right there in turn number 1, which did ultimately kind of stack all of this up here in turn number 2, with all these guys trying to get to everywhere they could.
Couple more swapping out of spots just to the tail end of the top 10 here. Seth DeMerchant picked up 1, went from 10th to 9th, hopped in front of Scott Austin, and in front of him Mike Ianarelli, who started 6th, fell from 7th to 8th position after Richard Reagan Jr.'s number 22 machine was able to move up by him. So there's been a lot of movement just outside of the top 6 transfer positions. DeMerchant, biggest mover tonight, has been able to get around to this stage. 15 cars, still 3 shy of a transfer spot. He's been so good all year, though, that he's all but locked in to get a provisional if he can't make those top 6, although I'm sure he would like to be able to do it the way that it is in the rule book just for sake of it, and he's at a pretty good spot right now. But the guys up front seem to have a control on this race, and we'll be closing in now. The restart's going to be just outside of 10 laps to go, Tony, and they're going to be moving to a single file restart this time around.
The key here, though, is very simple. Keep your position if you're in the top 6. If you're anywhere outside the top 10 right now, it's desperation time. You've got to figure out a way to get by cars, but a caution flag is your worst enemy. You do not want to cause one for 2 reasons. 1, you get put to the back, and 2, it minimizes your time. So a lot of guys now are starting to get a little bit desperate.
We'll see if the lights head out on top of the base car this time. Looks like drivers moving their way up to the outside of the racetrack. Again, the basic math is you can't pass anybody under caution, so you need green flag laps. They may have benefited the likes of Demergent, Lionday, and Nobles, even Askew, drivers who have been able to move from the 20s up into the teens, but you are going to need green flag laps at some point to complete those final couple of positions and be able to get up into the top 6. We have seen trouble towards the front, but the issues have not been coming from the guys in the top 6. So the yellows aren't helping you anymore unless somebody in a transfer position ends up getting kicked out of this thing if they find themselves in trouble. This time by going to come to 11 laps to go for Myrtle Beach Speedway. Sabine going to be in control once again. A very slow roll at a turn number 4, and we go back underway.
That big jump once again from the number 25 machine in front of all these guys, and they decided to call an audible, get that single file start, and it's definitely off to a better start for a lot of these drivers. But when you look past the number 2 car of Jonathan Smith, you look at Richard Reagan Jr. in that 22 machine. He is in the mix. He is the guy we're watching, and we have 10 laps to go as he is on the hunt to get one more position and lock himself in. The guys in front of him are getting very dicey, though, there in turn number 2, and he's right there on the cusp of making it right here. Going to turn 3, we'll see what he does.
And that was no good for the 2 machine, because after the 07 and the 01 got a little bit aggressive on each other, he had to check up, and it brought the 22 Reagan right to the bumper. Caution flag once more. Problems in turn number 4 with Chris Patton's number 1 machine.
And this is going to set up a very interesting scenario because you're going to have literally a couple of laps to maybe sort this thing out, about 5 laps or so. But all of that started way back there in the tail, and Robbie Bunden got into the back of Chris Patton and pretty much straight front to rear bumper contact. There's no two ways about that one as far as what happened. But if you're up front, this is good. This is less time for somebody to get around you. If you're further back, guys, this is problems. Again, you're starting to get desperate, and with only 5 laps or so once we restart, do not be surprised if we have another yellow flag.
And if we do get another yellow inside of 5 laps to go, this race will not have an opportunity to go back and away. So if we do get to and pass lap number 30 before the lights go back out on top of the iRacing.com official pace car, this race is going to have one in final restart. It could be 4 laps to the end. It could be half a lap, depending on what happens, I think, primarily behind your leaders. But for the guys who had been picking up spots, and to an extent, I think it's true that they had been benefiting from some of the yellows, even though they aren't the folks up front. 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th right now. Reagan, Iarelli, Demergent, and Austin, they picked up no spots on that last run, so they are going to need an opportunity to get to somebody's inside, and I think the 22 was positioning himself well on the back of Smith before that yellow came out.
Yeah, what he's got to do now, and what anybody behind him has to do now, Iarelli still has, a slight chance to make it. They've got to execute the start of this restart perfect. If they don't, I think that they're going to have to rely a little bit on maybe bumping, getting the guys in front of them, or having the guys in front of them also fight for position as well. And they've got to execute that start as good as they can. If they get to the bumper as much as they can, they've just got to figure it out. And then also they could try and overdrive maybe a little bit. Tony said, desperation starts to sit in for these guys who want to make the feature, and we are seeing that with the amount of cautions, but we'll see that probably for that transfer spot as well.
And you got to be careful. If you want to use the Chrome Horde on somebody, you can't wreck them, because causing a caution flag would be a penalty. You get dropped to the back, and if you do that at the end of this race, if you wreck somebody, cause a yellow, you will not get your transfer position. Even if the penalty is applied post-race, you would be dropped to the back of scoring on the lead lap, which right now is 21st and nowhere near a transfer spot. So if you're going to have to resort to that, you better have to know how to execute it.
Yeah, you got to be able to do the bump and run without the bump and crash. It's important to have that little bit of finesse, and especially if the guy knows he's going to be gone, he might just spin to spite you. So you got to be very careful. You don't want to make enemies here, especially at this point in the season.
Across the start finish line to become once more, and the lights are out on top of the pace car, so 32 laps will be extinguished as this next time around, and we will have up to 3 laps of green flag action to race out to the end. And get a good look at our 6 automatic transfers, and once we know who the top points finishers outside of those top 6 are, the final 2 transferees into our 150-lap main event, we will let you know. But here we go. Leighton Seville up front has been in control of this thing ever since an early pass. So Benny Ellison is going to bring us back to the green with 3 laps left to go for Myrtle Beach in the super late model LCQ.
Great jump once again by the 25, and if he just keeps a steady pace, he should be able to clock out and get away from these guys. Eyes going back to that 6th position. Looks like a little bit of wrecking on the front. And that is going to end the race. Caution flag now. No chance to even fight for it for some of these guys on the cusp. Richard Reagan, I do not believe, is in a position to make it on that. I'll have to take a look here just shortly, but that is going to finish the race.
And it's a tough break in this one for Boyd. Again, it was a battle for position outside of the top 15. Just got squeezed up into the fence a little bit. He was much quicker than the 04. It was a late move to the outside of the racetrack, and more problems behind is going to shut down anybody's hopes outside of the top 6 of fighting for it one last time.
Yeah, I believe what actually happened, Boyd's machine may have had a little bit of a snafu where the server had no idea where he was at, his machine acting up, and he popped back in at a really precarious spot, and that's ultimately what caused the accident. So Rocky Boyd, kind of when it rains, it pours. Not only were you racing back there towards the tail, but then your machine decides it wants to act up and causes the ultimate final caution of the race.
So it's going to be at a slow to pace as the field lines up behind the pace car. It is Smith P6, Near P5, Ellison in 4th, Hart in 3rd, Slate in 2nd, and Siebele up front, driving at number 25 machine. Probably would have been okay, but it was a very good opening start to this thing. Jumped up in front of Benny Ellison on the initial drop of the green flag and did not look back since then. And while it was a limited amount under the green, it is a convincing late model win for the 25.
Yeah, once he got that position, it was on the very beginning of this race, at the very start of it, that he got that position. And once you get it, sometimes it's sometimes difficult to take it away from a guy like the 25, Leighton. You get a good start each time. You have a restart with as many caution flags as they had tonight. If he got a good restart, got a good jump, it was going to be really hard to defeat him. So him and the 5 drivers behind them, and I do believe Ianarelli and Intermission are the 2 drivers that will get the transfer spot, but that is not official at the moment. What is official, at least what we can see, is that the top 6 here in this race will make it into the feature.
And while that does obviously advance those drivers, series regulars, and this super late model main event coming up for the Fall Brawl is not a points-paying event for the super late model tour on the season, there are big series regular names that are outside of the transfer spots. You got the likes of Austin, Lyday, Porter, just scrolling through here, back at the field a little bit more, Chris Patton and other drivers. So a lot of folks coming into this trying to be able to fight for the cash handout after the Fall Brawl, and for many of them, Tony, really didn't get a fighting chance at this one based on a couple of things. One, the yellows, absolutely, that got them stuck back in the pack, but the reason they were back there was the difference of 4/10 between first and dead last in this in qualifying, and that kind of dug these guys their graves.
You never want to be in an LCQ. They're called a hooligan race for a reason, because you're never sure what can happen. If you're going to be in one, the best case scenario is to be like the guys up front. Start up front, stay up front. That is your best chance for success, as we saw here tonight. But ultimately, they have to go back and look at their qualifying program, whether it was a slip on some lap, the money lap, whether it was an off in the setup, whatever it was. Ultimately, they have to look at what got them here, and that was they were too slow by the clock. Again, whether it was by mistake or by plan or by whatever, and they've got to rectify that going forward, because you get a field this tight, one small slip can really be magnified in a field like this.
So the 25 of Leighton Siebele takes home a checkered flag in tonight's super late model LCQ. He'll be accompanied by the rest of the top 6 in the main event, and we will wait on official word from the tower to let you know who the 2 points paying transfer positions will be into the Fall Brawl. But we'll take this opportunity to step aside as the super late models head back to the pits, because the late model stocks are coming up next, and it is a points paying event, the second to last week on this Cars eSport Tour, and it is a tight championship battle. We'll talk about that and more with Myrtle Beach Speedway. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Championship Esports Association Cars eSport Tour at LSRTV, your home for sim racing and iRacing Live. We'll be back in a moment.
When I sat in the car, you always wonder, what's it going to feel like? It was my first time driving a mid-engine GT car. My thoughts were, wow, this is really good for our first time in a car. I was really surprised by it. You're sitting low, you got the A-pillars at steep angles, the windshields at steep angles, you can see the fender flares. I think we have a chance to win. Everything's got to go right, but I think we have a car that can win the race or be on the podium. But can you imagine how cool that would be to go back 50 years later to the year and do it?
The Cars Tour crowns champions at South Boston Speedway on Saturday, October 14th. Bring the entire family to enjoy one last night of action-packed racing this summer. Can drivers for Kyle Busch and Dale Earnhardt Jr. emerge with a championship? There's only one way to find out. Advance tickets start at only $10 and kids 6 and under are free. Don't miss the Cars Tour Sobo 250 on Saturday, October 14th. For more information, visit carsracingtour.com.
Hi guys, I'm Scott Speed, driver of this amazing Volkswagen Beetle GRC car. And I got good news for the iRacing fam. We got this coming in. I'm currently working on it myself personally to make sure that it is as accurate as possible. With the addition of dirt and now this mean car, it is gonna be so fun. And it's gonna be available free to all the iRacing members. Personally, I can't wait to get out there and race you guys on it.
So cool, yeah. Nate, what are you working on at the moment?
So I'm working on the animation for the game. We're working on getting pit crews fully developed, and that involves a lot of moving parts. So I'm going in and making sure that each moving part can dovetail smoothly into the next one, so that when you pull in for a pit stop, it looks like the real thing, as opposed to a bunch of jumbled pieces that suddenly stop and then go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so cool, but why aren't you working on the time model? Nothing?
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Welcome back live to the Myrtle Beach Speedway and LSRTV's continuing coverage of the 2017 Cars eSport Tour presented by the Championship Esports Association. Happy to have you with us for this penultimate week on our 2017 campaign. The main event going to be coming up in just a little bit. You saw the LCQ in the super late models. Leighton Siebele taking home the checkered flag. He and 5 other drivers plus 2 provisionals going to be joining the rest of the qualified field in just a little bit for tonight's 150 lap main event, and that one is going to be a non-points event for the super late model series, making sense because we did have a non-points event in these late model stocks earlier this season. But this race is just like any other. 100 laps, points are on the line, and Coop, this is the tightest championship battle we see amongst the 2 series. Only 13 points separate Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson for the top of the championship standings, and with 2 weeks still left to go, both drivers with 4 wins, both drivers with 9 top 10s in 9 starts. This thing is wide open.
Yeah, Christian Peterson, he's trailing by those 13 points, and Cucker, he's the only one to break 300, which is really impressive. And we talked about it beforehand and said that it's still a big stretch, but there's a lot of cars out here tonight. There's 23 guys making warm-up lap times, and there's 2 other guys that might run out there too. Actually, one of them is Christian Peterson, so I assume that he would want to go out there and run too. But there's a lot of guys out here tonight, and that's a lot of positions that, let's say, that they do have a bad run. I mean, they have 9 top 10s. They're not crashing out in any of the races. They're not having any, big issues. I don't want to jinx them, but man, if anything were to happen to either of them, that would completely change it all. And with as close as it's been between those 2, I think we would want to see it to the end as they've been racing this whole time. They've been 1-2 for so many races this season. It'd be a shame to see that, but that is a possibility.
And I know that incident points aren't the greatest stat to show a week in and week out consistency, because oftentimes you get involved in something that's not your fault at all, and it adds up the incident point counts. But Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson under 20 incident points for the season. The next 2 drivers behind them, Adams and Aslan in the championship, both at 39. You got Young at 38, Rigo at 36 incident points throughout the top 10 in the championship standings. So over and large, compared to everybody else, those top 2 points, Tony, have had a very good season and haven't had issues. Everybody else is probably complaining. If you're Adams and you're 57 points back, when are they going to have bad luck? It hasn't happened yet, but we have seen some fantastic stuff from these drivers all season long. And as the late model stock championship works into week number 11, this one should be just as good.
Sometimes all it takes is a little bit of luck, and tonight could be just the night as any to have that bad luck and draw everybody else back into the championship battle. Sometimes winning a championship means putting together a string of races where you have the perfect luck, everything works according to plan. Maybe next season is when all the bad luck comes your way. But as they say in this business, sometimes it is better to be lucky than good, and we'll find out tonight if luck is still on their side.
It's been since June since somebody not named Christian Peterson or Matt Cucker has won in this late model stock championship, and we will see if somebody can play spoiler tonight as we go trackside and take a look at your LSRTV starting grid for round number 11 at late model stocks on 2017. Benny Ellison going to qualify up front on this one, and again there is an invert inside of the top 10. The 01 though will roll off from up front, and he'll be joined on the front row of the 96 machine of Tanner Cook. You got Trevor Rizzo back at row number 2, inside in 3rd position. Jody Green to the right-hand side in 4th, and the fastest driver in the warm-up session, Connor Blaze, is 5th.
Jacob Porter, he'll start in the 6th position at the invert, and you got Jeremy Adams, Tommy Ryan in row number 4. And then you've got Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson, as they've always been this entire season, side by side in 9th and 10th.
11th place starter, first car after the invert. Devin Morgan is in the 12. Scott Naslin is in the 33, starting in 12. Randy Yoakum again in this one. He'll be pulling, or attempting to pull double duty, I guess you would say, in the 4, with John Leday also in this one in the 44, while Kyle Levereau pilots car 7.
Aaron Kruppler going to be with him in 16th position. Jeremy Watkins and Kyle Young back in 17th and 18th position. Back on row 10. 19th is Adam Rigo, and 20th is DJ Beverly.
Running out the 25 car field, Brandon Wilkinson starts 21st, and you've got David Gill at 22nd, Reese Nobles 23rd, Robbie Bunnan 24th, and well, if Kyle wants to go out there, I think he'll go with 25th, but we'll just have to see if he's actually on the track. He is actually. He's going to have the tail end of the field in 25th.
The top to bottom 25. Big news though on the front row. Benny Ellison slated to roll off at a first position, at least not on the grid at the moment. So it appears that Rizzo is going to slide up for the inside of row number 2. And a 039 machine is going to occupy the inside of the front row and become the control car for this one. Different cars than in the late model, the super late model, I guess, the LCQ that you just saw, but a very different complexion. 100 laps from Myrtle Beach, the second last points race on 2017 championship drivers in the middle of the pack as we go green flag racing outside. Better start for Tanner Cook to turn 1.
And a little bit of contact. He's going to get wrecked down for the lead. Huge crash in the turn number 2 on the start of this race. And they're still wrecking down the backstretch.
And more drivers going to be involved in this one. Matt Cucker safely able to get on by, but Trevor Rizzo in that 039 machine again assumed the race leading position, and he just pushed up a little bit too much to 96. There was nothing that he could have done or seen ahead of time to prevent that, and Rizzo tags Cook at the outside of the racetrack. He goes around, and any time that you have a issue at a restart like that, Tony, the last LCQ, a perfect example of that. Oftentimes the guys behind it have nowhere to go, but especially when those problems happen in a battle for the race lead.
Yeah, and Trevor Rizzo, a little inexperienced with this series, not quite sure what to expect. Kind of went into turn 1, cold tires, and it just slipped. I mean, he probably tried to get a little too much too early. A youngster trying to find that little bit of fame, if you will, in the series. Went in there, and the car just slid up, and contact was made. The really unfortunate people you feel bad for are guys like Jody Green and people behind him that really did nothing wrong. And then Trevor, I guess, didn't quite have his head back as far as where he was going and who was around him. Just started coming down the racetrack again after the incident and got Jacob Porter all tangled up with a couple of other drivers, too, also catching a piece of the melee. So not a good opening quarter mile for Trevor Rizzo. I know he was really jacked up to have a solid run tonight, and it appears that solid run is going to come up about 99 3/4 laps short.
So we're under an early caution flag here, and Connor Blaze is going to end up in the race lead. Only Blaze, who started in 5th, Adams, who started 7th, Green, who started 4th, and Cocker, who started 9th. They right now are on 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. Those are the only drivers who started inside of the top 10 that were not collected in that accident. And Christian Peterson made a big call, and it may very well have been the right call based on what happened there, but he decided to start from the pit lane, so he was nowhere near the accident, and that's a good decision, I think, on behalf of the 23. So he's back at 18th position as he rejoins the field. Cucker could have very easily have been involved in that. I think the difference was because he was 9th, he was on the inside of the row, and he wasn't caught up topside where all of the cars were piling in, but a huge gain for the 69 up to 4th.
Yeah, and these guys right here with the top 5 now being completely different, you're going to see that that was a good strategy, whether it was on purpose or accident. Christian Peterson back in 18th place right now behind all these guys. He's still going to have to make his way up towards the front of the field. So 95 laps in about a whole field. Right now, he'd be sitting, you know, way more than a race worth of points behind for the finale next week. So I'm sure he'll make those positions up as the race goes on. We're only on lap number 6 now of 100.
Let's get to go back out on top of the pace car. 100 laps is a regular distance in this late model stock tour. We will do 125 when the season comes to a close at the South Boston Speedway later on next month on the 18th. That one you'll be able to find it right here, as always, at LSRTV, iRacing Live, and of course at carstour.tv. But a pace car, I'm going to go back down and we'll get set for restart. Let's try it again. Blaze and Adams going to make up the front row this time, but at turn number 4 at a 56 off and away with a good jump.
Good jump off into turn number 1, but again, you got to tiptoe. Tires are still cold. The pressures have not built up yet. A couple of guys 3 wide further back. And as long as this race is, guys, you've got to get into a rhythm here. You've got to try to not be the rabbit that gets out there that everybody's going to chase. And if you are, the thing here at Myrtle Beach is you have to race to the back. As goofy as that sounds, the guy who can use his tires up the least early and still have something left, he's the guy you want to chase at the end. So this is always a fun race.
You see a battle inside of the top 5. Matt Cucker and Jody Green fighting for that 3rd position. The 13 machine had it off for the restart. Cucker made a move to the outside of the racetrack, and he will be able to complete that pass. Green is working with some left side damage. Curious if that's going to be affected the Unacceptable Racing Chevrolet at all, but they do swap out 3rd and 4th position, and a championship leader up to the race high P3 so far. Single file top 10. Caution will fly. Problems behind down the back. Looks like there's going to be issues with Nobles in that number 9 machine, and it does. He got a tag there. We'll get a second look at this one. The 87, I think, finished him off on that, but the 9 was all kinds of out of shape, Tony, before that contact.
He was all by himself, got to the gas a little too early in turn 2, which is very easy to do here. Started to spin the tires, and around it came for the number 9 of Reese Nobles. Tough break for him. He'll have to restart from the tail. Another Virginia driver very excited about tonight's event. Unfortunately, not the kind of TV time he was looking for. The good news, though, seems to have made minimal contact, at least with the retaining wall, although the rear fascia of that car could use a little bit of work.
A second incident early on in this one. We did see 2 caution flags in the opening 10 laps of the LCQ, and now 2 caution flags early here tonight in the late model stocks. Cutter Blaze had a very good restart. I'm sure the 56 machine would have preferred to not have that happen at all, as he was out by a couple of car lengths. It is good news for the likes of Matt Cucker and other drivers who would have been able to pick up a couple of spots. Brandon Wilkinson has done an impressive job. Started 21st, he's up to 10th. Robbie Bunden, 24th to 12th. Just some of the drivers mid-pack who have been able to take advantage of a combination of things, guys in front of them wrecking out, as well as picking up a couple of spots off of these restarts. But we slow things down now. Cucker into 3rd, I think, is the guy we're going to have to really keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's always been able to navigate his way to the front, and typically it's whichever driver between himself and Christian Peterson gets to the front first that I think typically has the biggest advantage. And that sounds, you know, obvious to most people, but you know, if you're up front, you typically have the ability to set the pace. But at the same time, we have seen the lead be exchanged between these guys in the late goings of the race. You know, it's only lap 12 by lap 13. I expect that these guys are going to calm down probably a little bit here. I know race control is probably telling these guys, hey, we've got about 85 more laps. You know, there's a long race, and we've got a lot of guys in here that we haven't seen before, but I don't think they're actually really the guys having the issues. I mean, we got a guy up front that hasn't ran a single Cars eSport 2 a race, and he's leading the race right now. So, you know, a lot more drivers in the mix does make it more difficult to know how to race each other, but sometimes that's just the way it goes at short track racing.
And curious to see if track time on the sim at this racetrack in particular could help out Matt Cucker. He hasn't been dominant in these cars, does have 4 though late model stock wins on the year, but just a week ago in the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series won all 5 races. That included 2 late model division feature races, 2 Chargers division feature races, as well as the street stock. He won everything there was to win here at Myrtle Beach 1 week ago, many of which came under the lights. He's looked strong early. We will see if the global commentary running in third right now can challenge and defend the honor of the series regulars in his second to last points race on 2017. Green flag to fly once more. Another masterful start by the 56, but Cucker right there slots immediately to second.
Everybody able to
going side by side down the back straightaway. And you see that Jeremy Adams right there. Looks like he may have lost that position to Matt Cucker. Just talked about him and those guys, teammates, worked together quite a bit on the setups here, and that pass happened very quickly. So relegate Matt Cucker up, Jeremy Adams down, and then you've got Jody Green very peacefully in 4th place, although he didn't have a peaceful start, has a big donut on the left side of his car. And he started 4th and is still in 4th, so and he's got really no one around him. So I'm sure that's what he really likes to see. Is there's not a lot of other guys that can really say that right now. And then you've got Devin Morgan right now. He's got a lot of hungry guys behind him, including Randy Yoakum and Brandon Wilkinson.
And Yoakum going to go to the inside of the 12, but I think that may have been a combination of maybe trying to think L12 was going to the inside, but it also acted as a block at Wilkinson because the 26 was looking low. The truck and down machine backed it off, and now the 4 will go to the inside and make it a side-by-side skirmish for 5th position. He'll squeeze the 12 in a room and get that spot. Wilkinson going to follow suit right to the inside as well. He'll also get it, so the 12 going to drop back 2.5 miles.
And early on, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can let somebody else set the pace, let that guy in front of you be the rabbit, so to speak. You pretty much pace yourself off of him. But behind him, you've got a couple of other battles going on. Is that 12 of Devin Morgan now fighting for his proverbial life. The good news is you can make the top side work here. Morgan doing just that as they work out of turn number 4. Already 20 laps on the board. Excuse me, 19 on the board, working lap 20 with 80 to go.
And the outside's been replaced at Matt Cucker's gotten a couple of spots tonight, changed for position just in front of this side-by-side. The 26 machine of Brandon Wilkinson gets up and in front of Randy Yoakum. So that battle that was taking place before they were able to get up to Morgan resumed after they completed the pass and was able to finish that off. So those drivers swap out more spots. And that 44 of John Lade up the inside of the racetrack, he will also get around Morgan. Morgan picked up spots early in this one, rocketed from 11th to the top 5, but he has some front-end damage on that number 12 Chevrolet. I'm curious if that's hindering him right now. Is doing a good job of defending topside, but can't find a spot down low, and finally blend back in front of the 33.
Yeah, most tracks, mostly short tracks with these late models, front-end damage isn't too big of a deal. If you go to South Boston, it's hardly going to be a big deal because of how many times you'll have to get off the throttle. But with as long as they're going down these straightaways, this isn't as much of a short track as we are typically used to, and that can overheat the engine as it normally does even at these shorter tracks, but even more right now. And he's got a long ways to go. We're only 1/4 of the way through here, and we'll have to see if he's going to be able to make it to the end of the race with that engine intact and with the rest of the car intact. It looks like he's coming back on the track right there in turn number 2, and damage can really be a big deal in certain situations. Right now, I'd say he's going to be fine for now.
Quarter distance the next time by the start and finish line as Blaze at the moment works on lap 25. Cucker was able to get clear very quickly for second off of the restart and kind of anticipated at that point the 69 would immediately start to pressure the 56. Blaze kept it even at about 3-4 car lengths, and he has sensed about double that gap and looks very strong up front to get the 56. Started from 5th due to the top 5 invert, but he was P1 in the warm-up session, and he's looking pretty comfortable right now. Now a second in front of Cucker.
The problem you run into again here at Myrtle Beach, you do not want to get too far ahead in the case of Connor Blaze. You want to save as much as you can tire-wise, car-wise, and then some. So if you're Connor Blaze right now, you got to be careful. You really only need to go as fast as you need to go, if that makes any sense. You don't need to have this huge lead. All you need is a couple of car lengths if you want to set the pace of this race, and that might be something he does, is try to drive out the rearview mirror, and as we mentioned at the outset, kind of race his way backwards, so to speak, to where he doesn't have to worry about passing anybody, just keeping everybody from passing him.
Meanwhile, Christian Peterson continues his march to the field, picks up another spot on the struggling Devin Morgan. Morgan going to lose another one as Kyle Leveralt heads to his inside, but Peterson's got a front row seat in the battle for P6. Randy Yoakum trying to do all he can to prevent Lade from getting the inside of positioning. The 44 really wasn't there at all in 3 to 4, and he doesn't have a nose there now, but that 4 machine airing on the side of caution early in this race and leaving the 44 plenty of space, and they're going to rough each other up for that spot. Contacted at turn 2, and a 44 pushes his way through.
Yeah, and he got suckered out of 2 positions there, and looks like Kyle Leveralt got a little bit of contact with the 12 right there as well. And Peterson, he just kind of got that position basically knocked in out of the way for him, and he's going to see if he can try and get around John Lyday right here on the backstretch. He's going to show the nose, and he's going to have it here in turn number 3. And will he be able to clear him? Probably not out of 4, but he'll be pretty close, and he'll get the position at the line. So that's another position for the number 23. Remember, he's got a championship on the line if he does not get back up toward the front. It'd be really difficult if he doesn't beat Matt Cucker today. So I'd say he's got to get towards the front. The only thing about that, though, is as we've talked about, tires. It's a big deal. And in order to get up there, he's going to eat up 6 seconds. That's a lot of time, and you're going to have to probably destroy those tires to get up there.
As all 100-lap events are this season, there is only an opportunity and a possibility, I guess is a better way to word it, of 1 competition caution in the race. As always, if you go 40 laps without issue, a yellow flag would fly. If we continue on this run, that would come out just a smidge past the cross flags at lap number 53. 40 laps from there would be well inside of 25 to go, so that would be the one and only possible yellow. And as we know, scratch that, caution flag is out at lap 33.
Looks like it's going to be Reese Nobles right there at a turn 2, and he's slow to get back on his feet right here. Yeah, it looks like he came out of turn number 2 and might have had a little bit of help this time.
And it was very similar to the last one. The 9 was clear by a couple of car lengths to the 96 Tony, and as we saw the first time, he just was really struggling with the handling on his own, went way up the hill and then brought it back down. At that point, the 96 was there and kind of spun in front of him, and then it was the piece of contact that finished him off.
Yeah, car was already loose again, probably just way too hard on the throttle. Didn't have a lot of right rear tire left, or tried to lean on it too much. Car started to go around, and as soon as he tried to check up to save it, unfortunately the 96 car of Tanner Cook was there, and around goes Nobles again into the inside wall. It's not been a good night for the number 9 car.
Just to follow up what I was talking about on the competition yellows, obviously we're not going to see it at lap 53, but the timing of this one, as we work lap 35 at the moment, if we were to go 40 laps, assuming we restarted right now, which isn't going to happen, we would be inside of 25 laps to go, so we will not see a competition regardless, competition caution, I guess I should say, regardless of what happens from this point on to the end of the night, and I believe that's going to be the end of the evening for Nobles. It will be parked to by race control, second time the cause of a caution flag. Just to kind of update you on what's happened in the opening 35 laps of contest, 19 drivers at the moment still run on the lead lap, with the exception of Reese Nobles, who's been parked. He'll fall back to about 22nd or 23rd. Jacob Porter's 2 laps down in 21st position. Adam Rico is 3 laps down in 22nd. And then we do have Aaron Crumpler and Trevor Rizzo, early race retirees, at the back in 23rd and 24th position. So that's an update of where we sit at the moment. Just a couple of laps shy of cross flags in this final points paying event on the season. Championship leader Matt Cucker still up front in second. Christian Peterson marching through the field at a race high P6.
Still going to be pretty difficult for him to be competitive, at least I think, even if he does get past the few guys in front of him to get to Matt Cucker. And I think Tony really made a good point about Connor maybe setting the pace a little too fast, and Matt Cucker didn't get suckered into pushing it either. I think Connor Blaze said for no pun intended, a blazing speed, and was 1.5 seconds ahead of everybody, and Matt Cucker did just enough to get in front of Jeremy Adams, knowing there would be one more caution. Possibly Connor didn't see that, or didn't look, or didn't know that was going to happen. Nonetheless, the caution did come out naturally anyways, and he's gonna have to deal with these guys with possibly a little bit more fresh tires, just because they've been, sitting and settling a little bit more. So I'm anxious to see how this turns out with this restart.
And Blaze looked pretty handily in control over the battle for the race lead. We'll see if the 69 can pick up on that or if he wants to continue to run the pace that he was doing on the last green flag stint. 38 laps behind us. Green flag flies at a good start inside of row 2. Here comes Jeremy Adams' challenge for P2.
Adams trying to make the inside work off of turn 2. And very hard to do on a restart because it's very easy to be pinched down and get that car out of shape. But luckily, Cucker gave him a whole lot of room. And in fact, he now is going to reclaim that spot as they cross start finish to complete the first lap after the restart. The battle, though, is behind him. Peterson is there. So is the 26 of Wilkinson. Guys using every bit of racetrack as they head back towards turn 3.
So those positions up front, did it end up changing up after all? But a Christian Peterson, you're going to get 1 and 2 more spots. Just like that, off for the restart. Second in the points and fourth on the racetrack. Peterson, even with the damage he has on the board, is working his way through the field, trying to get another late model stock win. He took both of these wins here at Myrtle Beach back a couple of weeks ago to Myrtle Beach Simulation Series, and also in the last 2 events in this series for the Cars eSport Tour. Now, going to continue to make it, in fact, a top 4 battle amongst the guys up front. Blaze not really getting away for the 69. Adams and Peterson all within a second.
And we are getting the Jaws theme, I guess. It's a little premature, but Christian Peterson is still faster than some of these guys in front of him, despite having the damage, despite having to climb through the whole field. It's amazing to think that he would be able to continue to save those tires while passing people early on, but with a setup that's probably as good as his, I know they don't really have too much fall off or compared to the competition on their tires, so he's going to try and get around Jeremy Adams here soon to try and catch Connor, or Matt Cucker, who's trying to catch Connor Blaze, which just happens to be a really good battle right now going to turn 3.
And if they start funning, because Adams and Peterson are right there, if that goes side by side for any more than a lap or 2, it will become a big 4-way battle for the race lead. Don't want to discredit Brandon Wilkinson at all. The fact that he got passed by Peterson, he is still biggest mover so far tonight in 5th position, putting him up 16 spots from where he started. He's just a little bit further back, just out of touch with the 23 at the moment, but Matt Cucker appears to have clicked it up a notch. He is all over the 56.
All over him, trying to make something happen. But again, it's still early, guys. We haven't even yet got to halfway. And the key here, you want to make sure you keep that speed in the race car to keep up with these guys, because we could have another organic caution, but there's no hope of a competition caution. And quite often, races at Myrtle Beach are known to have very long runs. So you've got to stay in touch, but you've got to do it, well, never mind, because caution's out. We got big problems.
Oh, huge wreck in turn number 1.
Looks like the 4 machine of Randy Yoakum is at least one of the drivers involved. There's a lot of damage on that number 4 machine, and it looks like it did start with him and the 7.
He tried to clear Kyle Leveralt, but Leveralt was already there, and chaos ensued. Big mess, and Leveralt took a huge hit. He's done for the night, absolutely. No way he's going to be able to come from a head-on impact on the outside wall like that. And I don't know whether he got tight. That would be the number 4 of Randy Yoakum, whether he got tight or what happened, but it just ran right out of room, and Yoakum almost flipped over, actually, right there at the start-finish line with the amount of damage, and then everyone behind him tried to scurry away not to hit anybody.
That's going to collect quite a few names towards the back of this thing, but at least up front, this yellow's going to bridge us through the halfway point. So we'll take this opportunity to take a look at your iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the globe. But in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and more. Connor Blaze is your race leader at the Cross Flags Point tonight, trailed by Matt Cucker, championship leader. Jerry Adams is there in 3rd, and championship runner-up is Christian Peterson in 4th, with Brandon Wilkinson rounding out the top 5. Jody Green right now scored in 6th position. John Lade back in 7th. The big movers, Kyle Barnes up to P8, and David Killow up to P9, with Scott Naslund rounding out the top 10.
Jeremy Watkins finds himself in 11th position, up quite a few positions, and then another driver who is up half the positions he started from, Robbie Bunn in 24th and 12th, and you've got Tanner Cook in 13th. Tommy Ryan in the 14th position. Randy Yoakum, who was just involved in an accident, 15th. Devin Morgan, DJ Beverly, Kyle Young, and they round out all the drivers on the lead lap, 16th, 17th, 18th, and you've got Jacob Porter one lap down in 19th. Kyle Everall might be out of this race. Adam Rigo, Reese Nobles, Aaron Crumpler, Trevor Rizzo, and Benny Ellison. That rounds out the 25 car field.
And it's a look top to bottom at your iRacing midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com and sign up today. For a limited time, if you go to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws, you can take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. You can get yourself a 1-year iRacing membership for over 50% off the sticker price, or you can get a 3-month subscription for less than $5. Again, those are valid on new iRacing memberships only, and for more information, it's going to be going through the rest of 2017. You go to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. So we move into the point of the race where we no longer count up, we begin to count it down. 48 laps to go tonight for Myrtle Beach. Again, the second to last late model stock championship points event on the season, and we'll have a melting of the minds up front once more. Blaze Cocker row 1 with Adams and Peterson back on row number 2, looking for the 56 to get a good jump. He does. Green flag flies once more. Cocker critical that he slides into P2 early, and he will, avoided the 89's challenge.
Look at Blaze. He actually moved up the track in turn number 1 to maybe slow down the momentum from Matt Cucker on the outside. It didn't work, and he's going to be right heads up with him in turn number 4 right here. This is going to be a close one to the start-finish line, and Cucker will have him at the start-finish line, but doesn't have him cleared. Neither of them are going to back down at this point, just over halfway, and we got a spinner off of turn number 2. Kyle Barnes may have sent him around.
And a caution is going to come out with the 69 of Matt Cucker in the lead. So that will be big implications going forward. But the issues come by Jody Green, the number 13, a top 10 car, is sideways at a turn 2.
Yeah, Green kind of couldn't tell if he really got help from the 44 car of John Lyday that was underneath him, or if it was Kyle Barnes in the 00. Pretty close quarters. If anything, it might have been Lyday who maybe caught a little piece of the left rear quarter panel. The good news for Jody Green, no contact with anybody or anything else. Able to get that Fury late model stock car righted and rolling, and the South Carolina native going to go at it one more time.
And I think that the 69 machine, regardless of what was going on, not all that far behind him, was looking to gain an advantage on a Blaze. Had just had a nose in front at the start-finish line, and then was actually working with a great run coming out of the corner when the yellow flag did fly. So it could be a toss-up. Inside, I think, is overwhelmingly been the place to be, but drivers, Cucker, I think specifically, one of the guys who's used that outside line the most to make passes, was in a spot, had a run, and I think may have been able to complete the pass on a Blaze. Nonetheless, the yellow came out when there was a half a car length advantage to the Global Com machine on the outside of the racetrack, and that is huge because not only does that put Matt Cucker to the race lead, he'll be able to control the restart, and that's going to help him out and pay its due dividends, but I think in the grand scheme of things, the 13-point championship difference between he and Peterson, 13's got to be the closest this championship has been at in 3 or 4 months. So the 23 team has really been putting the pressure on late this season. Another spot picked up for Cucker means another spot in between those two, and Peterson has been in 4th for quite some time. Not to suggest that he's going to plateau there, but close it in now and 40 laps to go. By the time the restart rolls around, he's going to have to dig for a little bit extra.
And the good thing for anybody who has kind of been really aggressive towards their tires is that with these caution laps, they'll cool down a little bit. They're not going to get tread back on them, of course, but they're definitely going to be a lot better than they would have been, being hot and being out there just, being used and abused, I guess I would say. But with anybody else, even outside the top 5 who's been really digging, you've got Wilkinson and Barnes who started outside the top 20, along with David Killo as well. They've kind of been able to, a little bit of luck to get through there and a little bit of skillful maneuvering around the wrecks to get up there, but they may have something for these guys up here too, because I know, and for a fact, that some of those guys in that group I was just mentioning, they definitely have been saving all race, waiting for the incidents to happen.
And saving, conserving tires is something that we've noted quite a bit of time tonight in our 100-lap feature. Will be a little bit of a bigger talking point later on when we go racing for a 150-lap main event in the super late models. It's going to be coming up right after the conclusion of this one. So make sure with the checkered flag flies that you don't step away. And keep it locked right here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. But here we go with a new look at front row. This time it's going to be Cucker to the inside in control and Blaze on the outside. Green flag flies as we go at it once more. 41 laps to go.
41 to go, and already you see guys starting to try to arc it into turn one to take as much momentum as they can through the center of the corner. These restarts are a time where you can get a position or two with very minimal loss. So guys really starting to try to take advantage of that as the race now is for second down the front straightaway into turn one. It appears that Blaze and Adams starting to lock horns as they work their way off turn two.
Blaze lost the race lead by a pass at the outside, and Elu second by a pass on the inside. Adams was able to handily control Peterson on the restart to 23 in sole occupancy, a P4 behind, kind of waiting for the 56 and the 89 to sort this shit out so he knows which lane to put his sixth-man motorsports machine into to try to move forward. But the 89 really cheat the white line and contact the time at a 2, leaning on the door of Blaze, got him out of shape, and now puts the advantage back in favor of the 56.
Oh, and really close to turn number 4 was these guys and getting back into line. And you could, wow, really close to the back bumper of Connor Blaze is Jeremy Adams. And I've never seen him get so close to somebody's back bumper into a corner like that before. I think that these guys have they've been racing themselves so long. I think they needed this challenge. Looks like Connor Blaze has definitely given them a really good run for their money in a literal sense too, because of the bounties that are at stake in this race right now. That is still a deal in the Cars eSport Tours, that if anyone from Vincier or Six Man doesn't win the race, there's a big cash pot for anybody who does. But for the moment and for the time being, that won't happen because Matt Cucker, he's one of those drivers and he's up front pulling away.
And not only are there going to be payouts at the end of the night in the super late model, the Fall Brawl main event, but it is a $60 bounty to knock either of those two teams out of victory lane tonight, and Cocker in a position to be able to secure that cash and keep it in the back pocket of the crew. But Blaze in second is the closest driver to the front to have an opportunity to do something about that. Peterson is going to be able to make a pass for third, though, around Jerry Adams, and now searching for a way by Connor Blaze to the bumper that time, and one, and a little bit out of shape. He's really driving it hard.
He has been trying different lines every single lap in both ends of the speedway, whether it's a high entry late exit in turn one, whether it's a high entry or a medium exit or whatever you want to call it, in whatever end of the speedway. Peterson's not going down without a fight. He is trying different things while trying not to slide the tires, trying to keep the momentum going, the car rolling. That time it failed. He lost a spot, maybe even 2 this time in turn number 3. But I'll give Peterson credit. He is going where nobody else is, and that's how you have to pass cars here at Myrtle Beach, is by going where everyone else is not.
And he had a rough couple of laps there after getting out of shape, got passed by Adams and now Brandon Wilkinson, so the floodgates have opened up, and just at a blink of an eye, Christian Peterson went from going to +2 at a race start to down 1. He's in 5th position. Really the first time tonight the driver that started from pit road has lost spots on the racetrack, and you cannot afford this late. Maybe give Blaze an opportunity to get something unconquered. But on that opening green flag stretch, around lap 20 to 25, we were talking about the possibility maybe see it a comp yellow later in this race before a yellow came out shortly thereafter. Connor Blaze was in control, 1 second in front of Cucker, wondering, is the 56 that much quicker? Cucker having a lot more experience at this track in these cars than a 56 did, was losing time, and caution flag is going to fly once more, so that battle is far from over. Issues with DJ Beverly's number 42.
Looks like DJ Beverly's rear end of the car just started really kicking out, and that looks like almost from the way it looks, it just looks like the rear end just like stopped working. Or actually, he got in the corner a little bit too hard, I think, and that's why the car started to act like that. It looked really odd from when I first started looking at it, but a second look definitely shows that his entrance in the corner was really out of shape, and he gets it back and rolling. He'll only be a lap down, so if he can stay out there and he might be able to get that lap back, but it looks like he has his towed.
He got loose into the corner. The car broke sideways right away, so he had to correct it to the right. And once you move up the track in the center and then try to rotate that wheel back 90 degrees to the right side and 90 degrees to the left side, you're just not going to find any extra grip than what you had before. And it was a very slow spin, and then it snapped back up the hill and just a little bit of a kiss to the outside fence. Beverly's night was not all that well off at that moment, was running at an 18th position and 2 laps down. This is going to add to it because he will now drop an additional lap down, and for all we know, adding on to the issues they've had tonight may very well just do it for him for the evening. But this yellow, once again, checks things up, brings Blaze back to the back bumper of Cocker. It'll give us another restart this time. Close it into inside of 25 laps to go in this race. And coverage of tonight's Cars eSport Tour is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim from behind the wheel, on top of the pit box, or on the spotter stand, JRT is your go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself a basic download today, or the full pro version by logging online to joel-real-timing.com for more information. And I think that timing and watching intervals has been a big part of this race, but final 25 laps, I think you got to kind of throw out everything that's happened at this point out the window. Even Peterson, you have to ignore the fact that you were just in second and now fell to fifth. None of that matters. You're going to have less than 25 laps to figure something out. And if anybody was saving anything, like Cucker may have been doing early on, if Blaze is holding it back a little bit, if Adams has been preserving a little bit, now's the time to show it, because this race could sprint from this point to the end in a blink of an eye. It also, to be fair, could have a handful of restarts, and that would make things very interesting.
Well, anytime you get to this point in the race, things can go one way or the other. And you kind of have to look at the way the race has played out to that point. Has anybody been overly aggressive? Has anybody shown that maybe they're saving something? Or has this kind of been a relatively clean race? And I think the answer in this case is it has been a relatively clean race. Still 17 cars being shown on the lead lap, and only really a couple of self-spins, couple of single car incidents, nothing major. I would anticipate this race could go to the checkers, meaning we talked about it last restart, guys, you've got to get something while the getting's good, and it might be here in turns 1 and 2 this first lap and a half, while everybody's still bunched up.
24 laps left at Myrtle Beach Speedway to decide this one. Matt Cocker in search of a 5th win on 2017. Green flag flies once more, and it's a good restart. It'll leave a fight behind him. Side by side for second. Adams going to jump up from row 2 to the inside of the 56.
Still side by side for second, third, fourth, fifth, and on back Kyle Barnes. He's in a little safe haven with then 2 cars behind him, and it's a nice little blotch here with these guys. A lot of cars right here in the top 5. They're all together, and then Kyle Barnes is now going to add on to this group of 6, and now you've got a 2-car breakaway. Cucker and Blaze right there to turn number 2, and Blaze is getting closer and closer to Matt Cucker for that lead, and then you look behind them. They're still side by side for the top 5 position. It appears to be the 26 of Wilkinson going out to the outside, trying to see if that can work out, and we've seen that the inside and outside works in the simulation series. We'll see if it works out here in the Cars eSport Tour. Only thing about that is he's got Jeremy Adams, who's kind of doing the top to bottom groove, and it's kind of slowing Wilkinson down. The only thing about that is Christian Peterson may have used a lot of his stuff up earlier. I don't think he's as fast as he was earlier in comparison to these guys.
The 23 machine is keeping at 26 blocked in on the inside of the racetrack, but I think it's a good point to note as it looked like maybe a shot that time. Wilkinson moves Adams up the racetrack to the inside. They're going to go 3 wide at a battle for third, and Peterson, I thought maybe was going to be the big winner in all of that. He will not clear Wilkinson, and now he does at a turn 2. Adams contact, not happy.
Oh, they are not happy with each other right here, and they continue to fight right in front of the league owner, and league owner saying, you guys need to calm down just a little bit, because I'm right here and you wreck me, I'm not going to be too happy about it. So they're continuing to hit each other in turn number 2. I don't know how they have not.
Oh, there he goes.
In there. Oh gosh, that's close.
Kyle Barnes has had a much quieter night than Wilkinson. Barnes is now the biggest mover tonight, 25th to P6, and he'll work to the outside of a very heated Adams. As soon as Adams got a nudge by Wilkinson in a battle for third, came over the radio, wasn't happy about that, and we saw them exchange blows, and he'll give the double O a little bit of a cutoff that time, not wanting to give him any additional space as that battle is going to continue. Issues with Devin Morgan, the 12, going to jump to the safety of pit lane. No caution, and we stay green.
Morgan expired an engine or something on his car, but the good news for everybody else, we do stay green, closing in on 16 laps to go. And guys, Peterson, after taking full advantage of that maneuver earlier right here in turn 4, well, he has reeled in the top 2, and we have got ourselves a 3-horse race for the race win. Again, who can play poker best here? It's always fun to see who can save a little bit of something and not show their hand at Myrtle Beach, and I think now we're starting to see who really has something as the chips are on the table.
And this race, I said, could go one of two ways. We could go 24 laps to the end of this thing, or we could have a couple of restarts late. 3 or 4 of them would have been the maximum, but we've gone through 10 laps now to this point at inside of 15 laps to go. Each lap that passes, people get a little bit more spread out. The chances of it going green to the end continue. That does not mean there aren't good fights on track. How about one for 8th position right now? David Killo and Jody Green fighting for that spot, and immediately behind them, Jacob Porter and Tommy Ryan as 2 sets of 2x2 around P10.
These 4 drivers are really in the same, I think, the same mindset to just kind of get at the end of the race. Oh, wow, Porter gets really close to Killer right there, but those guys have always been kind of towards like the inside the top 10, just outside the top 5 all season. I know all of these guys really want to just kind of prove their worth. You know, some guys being here the whole season, and some guys starting about halfway through the season. You know, they know they don't have a playoff, or sorry, championship run. Too many series that we cover. A championship run here, but to definitely trying to get all it's worth. You know, these guys don't have big teams. They don't have the bounty. They know that the championship's a little bit out, but man, that was a good battle for what it was worth watching. And then now it's kind of died down. Jody Green gets the better of all of them, and then Jacob Porter and Kayla will go behind him, with Ryan having the big loss right there.
Battle for second position is not out of the question. Connor Blaze is keeping him at Conquer within 0.5 of a second. Not close enough, at least at the moment, to make a push and challenge for the lead, but he's close enough to where if that 69 makes a mistake, he will be there to bounce, but he's got problems of his own. Christian Peterson looks to be better on the long runs. He fell from 2nd to 5th on the most recent green flag stretch, but he's looking good now to the inside of the 56. Not going to get the bite off of the corner. Won't be able to keep a nose there, but he is definitely applying the pressure as he watches the lapses wind down. He's going to have to get a little bit more physical with the 56. He needs to clear him sooner than later.
The thing I really like about Christian Peterson right now, watch this. You'll see the Machina Blaze pull away about a car length in the entry of the corner. Peterson backs the quarter up, lets the car rotate, then he gets back to the gas, makes the straightaway longer. Ultimately, it's making him the faster race car. The downside is, of course, Connor Blaze has the track position, so he's got to fight that off, but right now Peterson looks better. Problem is, time is not on his side.
In just 2 laps right now, we'll be at 5 to go, and as always, that's the point of no return, where if a yellow comes out, we want to have an opportunity to restart this race. You saw the LCQ for the super late models end under caution of flight conditions because of a yellow inside of 5 to go, so if that's what Peterson is banking on, and in all honesty, at a 9/10 of a second disadvantage, even Blaze now at 0.6 of a second back, I think the little bit of attention that he's been diverting off of the race leader and to that 23 who has been all over him has cost him some time as well. These guys are going to need either a yellow or a mistake for Matt Cucker. And statistically, a mistake for Matt Cucker is going to be a lot harder to get.
We did see it by Christian Peterson, I do believe, last week. So I think that, you know, mistakes are bound to happen even to those guys that we don't think typically make them. So always keep yourself on your toes with under 5 laps to go. I'd say that Matt Cucker does have it smooth sailing as long as he just keeps the pace that he's got. Even if he slowed down a little bit, it wouldn't, I don't think, hurt so much. And he's just got to make a few more rounds. You know, he had the second fastest time. Oh wow, look behind him, Christian Peterson's going dirt racing back there in turn number 4. But Cucker, I think, just has to make a few more rounds around here, and he'll get it.
Only going to be 3 laps to go for Matt Cucker up in front. The good news is not a lap traffic in front of him, so he's got plenty of racetrack to work with to bring this thing back home.
Plenty of racetrack, plenty of time, and no real traffic in sight. That is good news if you're Matt Cucker. You're able to sit there and hit your marks knowing you're pulling away from the field. Just don't do anything stupid. Don't slide the tires. Don't do anything differently than you've done in any of the previous 97 3/4 laps. And as long as you can do that, keep it straight and heading in the right direction, this one is going to be yours for the taking heading into the finale at South Boston in just a couple of weeks.
So for a season for Matt Cucker that started off so good, taking home back-to-back wins. He got to 4 wins on the season a couple of weeks ago at Lanier, but through all of that, Christian Peterson has been step by step with him. And as the white flag flies, Peterson still has a strong showing tonight that it is going to come down to the final race on the season in a couple of weeks' time from South Boston. But under heavy pressure, Matt Cucker does not falter. He'll come to turn number 4 for his 5th win on the season. Cucker, your winner tonight from Myrtle Beach Speedway.
Impressive by that top 3, I'd say. You know, they were racing really hard at times and even rubbing a little bit, and we don't really see that from these guys. They're really typically pretty clean, but I think when it got into the nitty-gritty, drivers who thought they were faster really needed to get up there, and you saw just a little bit of bumping here and there from these drivers, and it wasn't. I think it was definitely in good sport because if it was you know, these guys just kind of like, oh, you're just a little bit faster, I'll just let you by. I mean, that was not. We don't want to see that. We want to see these guys really get after it, and that's definitely what they did today. And Matt Cucker, he'll win on the season. I think this will be his 5th win on the season. I think maybe there's gonna be one. Yeah, it'd be one unofficial win, and the rest are, so it's 6 total, 5 official.
And he celebrates on the front straightaway, a little bit of a larger field size here this time out with the fall brawl, attracting talents from all over the short track side of things here on the iRacing service. But at the end of the day, yes, Connor Blaze has a strong car. Yes, Connor Blaze comes home in 2nd, but the takeaways are going to be another solid result. Matt Cucker, Christian Peterson, once more, the top 2 finished people inside of the regular point standings. And he had to work for this one, started 9th because of the invert, got to the race lead after it appeared that he was much slower than Blaze Tony, and maybe there was some truth to the statement that he was saving early on and then put it to him late.
It's all about playing poker and keeping something still up your sleeve here at Myrtle Beach. Making the move as early as he did might have been a little questionable. It turned out to work out for him, but certainly you never know what somebody's got here at Myrtle Beach. It's one reason we always love coming here with the actual Cars Tour, because the races are always entertaining, and even with the eSport Tour, we see the same exact spirit of competition at Myrtle Beach where guys can save their stuff and make a late charge at the end, as we saw here tonight.
We'll look to get a word with your race winner tracks on in just a minute. First, as always, let's take a look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results tonight from Myrtle Beach in our late model stock tour championship event, second last on 2017. Matt Cucker gets a win, his 5th points win on the season. Connor Blaze comes home in 2nd, and Christian Peterson finishes in 3rd. Jeremy Adams comes home with the 4th place result tonight. Biggest mover does end up being Kyle Barnes, who goes plus 20 over the course of the evening to get a top 5 finish in this one. Just behind him, John Lade comes home with another top 10 tonight. Jody Green in 7th position with David Kello in 8th. Tommy Ryan ends up that battle in P9 with Robbie Bundit behind in 10th.
Scott Naslund will finish the night in 11th position. Then you've got Kyle Young who finishes 12th, which is the last car on the lead lap. Then you got Randy Yoakum, Brandon Wilkinson, who finish in the 13th, 14th position. Jacob Porter will finish 15th. Adam Rigo finished 16th. 17th goes to Jeremy Watkins. Then you've got Tanner Cook, Devin Morgan, DJ Beverly finishing out the top 20. And you've got a long list, or a short list of drivers who had ended their night early. Kyle Everalt, Reese Nobles, Aaron Crumpler, Trevor Rizzo, and Benny Ellison.
That's a look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results. Now we will get a word with your race winner tonight. Matt Cucker going to get his 5th on 2017. And we are down with the driver of the number 60 Intermission. Matt, congratulations on this one. We know that you guys are a force to be reckoned with any week that the late model stocks are on track. But Christian Peterson got the, I guess, both races from when we were at Concord just a couple of weeks ago. Closed in the championship to 13 points. It's the closest it's been in quite some time, and a statement by you guys closing this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried about going into tonight. I wasn't actually sure if I was going to be able to make it. I was supposed to have other plans, but I was glad I could, because this track is it's been special to me ever since it came out, and I've been fortunate enough to do really well. So with that being said, I mean, he was there in points, and I was a little bit worried if he'd beat me tonight, it'd be really close going into the final week at Sobo. But I'm glad I could pull off the W tonight and at least put a couple points in between us, because I know he gets some extra bonus points for getting the fast time in Q. So.
Well, we know that there was a little bit of an influx of more drivers in this race because of the special event that's going to be coming up in a bit in those super late models, but you have plenty of experience here in this Cars eSport Tour, but specifically at Myrtle Beach, dominated here in the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series just a week ago, and talking about how rough of a racetrack this is. About 30 laps into this race, right in about that window, Connor Blaze had worked to about a second of an advantage over you and had been pulling away until a yellow came out, and I think that he might have got the idea in his head that he had a better race car at that point. All of a sudden, we restart, you are right on him, and then looked good at the end. You ended up with a second advantage towards the end of it. Maybe, was that you saving the tires and courtesy of the experience that you have here, maybe over somebody like him?
Definitely. I mean, that's what I was doing. Jeremy was doing it. We don't want to push it at the beginning. They can lead all the laps they want. It's all about coming out up top at the end. And I was just saving that right side tires, because at first I thought I was going to get loose, and as the run went on, I started getting tighter and tighter. So I was just trying to save the right front as much as I could. I was backed it off to 0.2 slower than I know I could have ran when he was the second head. So I was like, all right, we're fine. And then once we got that restart and I got to his outside, I knew it was over, because this outside line here it's been incredible.
We'll let you take off, but obviously the exciting race is due up in those super late models. Any expectations headed into that one with what is sure to be a monster field and a lot of competition?
Well, I wish I would have qualified a lot better. In practice yesterday, I was decent. I don't know if I think I was second on the leaderboard, and then I laid down a qualifying lap, and it wasn't that great, so we're going to have to come from the middle of the field, and I'm hoping to have some good, clean racing with everyone else, but we'll see how everyone does, and hopefully we're there at the end, and thanks to you guys for broadcasting.
The format can change, the event can change, and even the facility can, but at the end of the day, the one constant is that you guys in that 69 team are fast week in and week out. Who makes it happen for you?
Definitely Team Vincier. Without them, we wouldn't be here, and without all the help of the guys and making setups and running us clean, always putting us on our toes. I got to thank Globalcom, iAnalyzeRacing.com, and we're still looking for sponsors. If anyone wants any sponsorship, put it on the car, and that's all, guys.
I can vouch it is a car that gets a lot of TV time. Matt Cuckers, your late model stock winner tonight for the second to last race on the season. Matt, always a pleasure chatting with you. Congratulations once more, and good luck here.
Thank you.
So he gets the checkered flag. That is our one and only points event on the season. The $60 bounty is going to go unclaimed into the final race on the season at Sobo next month. But due up is tonight's main event. The Fall Brawl coming up next in super late models. So we'll let those cars get on track by stepping aside for a very quick moment. And when we come back to Myrtle Beach Speedway, we'll go green flag racing for 150 laps. You're watching LSRTV's coverage of the Championship Esports Association's Cars eSport Tour. The Fall Brawl is next on iRacing Live.
The Cars Tour crowns champions at South Boston Speedway on Saturday, October 14th. Bring the entire family to enjoy one last night of action-packed racing this summer. Can drivers for Kyle Busch and Dale Earnhardt Jr. emerge with a championship? There's only one way to find out. Advance tickets start at only $10, and kids 6 and under are free. Don't miss the Cars Tour Sobo 250 on Saturday, October 14th. For more information, visit carsracingtour.com.
Welcome back live to the Myrtle Beach Speedway. Super Late Models are back on track. If you tuned in with us a little bit over an hour and a half ago, you saw the LCQ final. 6 drivers qualified into this one, plus 2 provisionals, but the Fall Brawl is just now moments away. As we welcome you back up top stairs at the LSRTV booth. Evan Pasoko, Asta Coop, Tony Stevens with you, with Cisco Scardabusa downstairs. And Coop, it's been a good night so far. Late Model Stocks had a points-paying event that just wrapped up. Matt Kunker is going to slightly increase his championship lead headed into the season finale. That's going to be at South Boston Speedway, and as it has been all season long, this Cars eSport Tour schedule, as best as it can, replicates the schedule of the Cars Tour. They'll be at Sob on the 14th. We'll be there on the 18th of October next month to round out the year for us. But right now, non-points, we have seen a non-points event in the late model stocks earlier this year with our friends at the Upstate Racing League at a joint event at Concord, but this is not for points, but it's for bragging rights and cash, and some may argue that's a little bit more important.
Oh yeah, I mean, who doesn't like cash at the end of the day, especially when you're driving late and in your own home? So I say the best way to make money is just to be sitting at home. So that's what these guys are trying to do, trying to make some work that they've done earlier this week or last week or even earlier in the month, just preparing for this race, knowing that they have the hand to play at the end of the race to get that. And you know, it's gonna be a long race. You know, we've got 150 laps. With these super late models, they'll be going around around 18-second to 19-second laps. But you know, these guys are gonna be blazing around here pretty quick, and at the end of the day, someone's gonna be a very happy customer.
And we got a better taste of how this race will shake out in that last one. I know that the late models aren't these SLMs, but I think that the late model stock feature a lot more indicative of what this will be based on the distance. Kind of hard to gauge how a 150-lap event would be on a 35-lap shootout that had quite the number of yellows. It prevented drivers who qualified poorly in that LCQ from getting up to the front, but this is going to be a race that you need to conserve. And something that we should note that is different from series procedures week in and week out is that these drivers are going to be required to take a 4-tire pit stop at some point tonight, anywhere between lap number 25 and lap 125. That is a special rule for tonight only, and something that no doubt could be a big determining factor in just how easy you take it on the tires and could really affect the entire strategy in this one.
Tires they make you Superman here. I mean, I've been here when we've seen guys back in the old Hooters Pro Cup days. You would take tires, unlap yourself, and go take the lead on one run. That's how important they are here. And even in the sim, just as important. Ideally, you want to take them in the middle of the run, but do not be surprised, guys, if somebody tries to hold out to the very end and get a late caution with 30, 35 laps to go and try to barnstorm through the field. Conversely, the strategy may be to take them a little bit earlier, save them, use track position to your advantage, and maybe have something left where guys have to get by you versus you having to pass everyone else.
The short warm-up session is drawn to a close, and we are ready to go Fall Brawl Racing on your home for sim racing. So let's go trackside and take a look at tonight's LSRTV starting grid for the super late models. Ashton Crowder is going to start on pole position behind the wheel of the number 27 machine. That is an 18.672 to put him up there, joined on the front row by Ryan Doucette in the 77 machine. Garrett Conrath, the only other driver to break down into the 18.6s. He'll start from third position tonight with Tommy Rod rolling off P4 and Jeremy Adams fastest in the warm-up back in 5th.
Starting in the 6th position is going to be Tanner Cook. Then you've got Christian Peterson 7th. Brandon Wilkinson starts 8th, Jody Green 9th, and Jeff Cody starts in the 10th position.
Middle portions of the field going to be led by the 40 of Jimmy Mullis in 11th. Garrett Strakoda in the 16, starting 12th. Connor Blaze, who just had a shot at that late model stock car victory, going to be starting 13th in the 56 with his nemesis Matt Cooker right beside of him. And the 12 of Devin Morgan also pulling double duty. He'll roll off 15th in car 12.
And a Benefield to start tonight in 16th position, Nick Ramsey in 17th, DJ Beverly at 18th, Dalton Collins at 19th, and James Carhula, series regular P20.
Starting 21st is Justin Lisenby. Then you've got Dawson Fletcher starting 22nd, Kyle Everalt, and Kyle Young starting on the 23rd and 24th, the Kyle Rowe. And then you've got Leighton Sebile. He'll start 25th after winning the LCQ.
And of course, everyone else behind him coming in either through the LCQ or via a provisional, including Rafe Slate, Ricky Harden, Denny Ellison, Blake Neer, and final transferee through the LCQ is the 2 of Jonathan Smith.
Mikey Dorelli and Scott Austin going to roll 31st and 32nd, and then provisionals to Seth DeMerchant and Jacob Porter going to make up the field top to bottom 34 strong as we come through turn number 4 side by side, getting set to go racing for 150 laps here tonight for the Myrtle Beach Speedway under the lights. Green flag flies and we're off and away for the Cars eSport Tour Fall Brawl challenge for the race lead to turn number 1 top side. Doucette wants to make Crowder fight for it, and he'll take it away.
Wow, what a run by Doucette on the outside, and almost not even a competition between those two. And I'm sure Ashton Crowder will come back and try and get it back, but what a huge run on the outside that he had. And Ryan Doucette, long time no see for him, as he was in he's been in this series or this league for quite some time, and he's pulled away a massive amount from the 27. He's possibly trying to just get away from these guys, knowing that they do get some tires. They'll try and get at least a bit of ability, try to get away from all the chaos as battle for 5th position starts to ensue with Tommy Ryan and Christian Peterson.
Yeah, Ryan giving space to the 23 of Peterson, but it doesn't look like that Peterson irrigation machine is going to be able to keep it down low. Ryan transitioned to the inside of the racetrack, and the 23 will just say, all right, I'll cross you over. He jumps topside. Can't make it stick that time either. Might have reached the wall that time at the start-finish line, but Peterson is not afraid to try inside or out. Not that the Bruin quite yet stays single file. He's got to keep an eye on Wilkinson off of the back end.
A lot of things happening here early. The good news is this race has already started out well. There it is. Problems back straight away. That puts us under caution here with only 4 laps complete.
Blake Adair is one of the drivers involved. The 07 machine turned around, was running in 28th position, and he made contact with the 01 of Benny Ellison. Just pushed way up the hill. Not sure if he had thought that the 01 machine was going to be a little bit higher. I think that it is a fair statement to say Ellison was a little bit low on exit, but at the end of the day, you can't merge up into somebody. Traffic, and both of those drivers get turned around. There was absolutely nowhere for Jonathan Smith's number 2 machine to go, and that damage is going to force the 2 down pit road.
It brings me to the point to note that Tanner Cook, he started on pit road to avoid a lot of these accidents and actually almost ended up being in it. He'll get the lap back, but was really actually pretty close to that accident in general. And looks like I think Jacob Porter may have just got a little bit on his front nose. No, he actually missed it. So Sun Driver's clean. Sun Driver's not out of that group.
Obviously, nobody wanting to come down to the pit lane this early on. Again, you can't, in fact, satisfy that 4-tire pit stop requirement until we get to lap number 25. You were not allowed to come down and take tires either before lap 25 or after 125. The only time you're allowed to, it is mandatory in that 100-lap window between lap 25 and 125 laps through this thing. Somebody could pit right off of the bat. Somebody could pit right at the end. Again, common sense strategy would say you pit towards the middle. Yellow flags and other things that we see as this race continues to work on could affect that, and we'll do our best to keep an eye on all 34 drivers and let you know who has and who has not pitted, but that not yet a factor in this fall brawl. But as we work under the first caution flag here tonight for the Myrtle Beach Speedway, I want to remind you that tonight's fall brawl is brought to you by ProTech Custom Gear LLC. Tonight's fall brawl is brought to you by ProTech Custom Gear, your go-to place for quality products and service in the high-demand defense market. ProTech specializes in high-quality custom holsters and firearms training. You can visit them at ProTechCustomGear.com for all your defense needs. ProTech is PROTEQ, CustomGear.com for more information. And a big thanks to those folks for making tonight's Fall Brawl possible in association with the Championship Esports Association and the Cars eSport Tour. Let's get to go back out on top of the pace car. Restart due up to take to lap number 10. Doucette made a convincing jump topside the first time. We'll see if Crowder can repay the favor.
That was a crazy restart that he had. Crowder had control of the restart, but once they got into turn 1 and 2, he did not have control of the lead. So we'll see if maybe Ashton Crowder can repay the favor here coming to lap number 10.
Nothing changes a couple more rows back, but Conrad's going to move up to third. Adams is now fourth, and Tommy Run fell to fourth on the very last run of this race as we come 2 by 2 once more. 77 out in front of this one. As the green flag flies, he is well clear of Ashton Crowder, who drops single file into second. Conrad trying to maintain third, has Adams topside fighting him for it.
Everybody gingerly down the back straightaway. One car up the racetrack. That is Christian Peterson. He's going to lose a good half dozen spots, or at least it felt that way, getting into turn number 3. Not sure if that was by design or if he kind of got shuffled out of where he wanted to be. Either way, he goes from about 6th back to 10th. Still working the top side. Maybe he learned something in that late model stock car race. We'll still have time to find out. But the battle up front, though, for about 4th and 5th, that's where Tommy Ryan is trying to fend off Matt Cooker right now.
He's on the inside, the 69 machine on the outside of the racetrack, really trying to pinch that 6 down, not giving him any more real estate than he has to. It is a battle for 5th and 6th, and behind them also side by side with Jeff Cote on the inside of the 26. Wilkinson outside will win the first of these fights. Clear is Matt Cooker. We'll see if Wilkinson can follow suit or if the 51 can continue to work at the inside. Looks like slight upper hand to Cote.
Yeah, and that number 51 machine's kind of been right there in the middle of it this entire time. I've seen him a couple of times this year on the racetrack, and really right now he's doing a decent job and working on it still on the inside. And we see that inside line work so well at times, and then on the other times we see the outside work so well. And I just have to believe that these guys' setups are so completely different and diverse that it's really making some great racing action, as you're seeing between these two guys, and the battle for the lead too that happened on the very first lap. But speaking of battles for position that are going on, looks like Jeremy Adams is going to get passed by, looks like that is Matt Cooker on the outside. So talking about setups, outside, inside, Cooker and company on outside.
He has not been afraid to make that top lane of the racetrack work. Caution, to flag will fly just as they complete that spot, and it is a log jam in turn 1 with a couple of drivers up in the fence.
Tanner Cook was one of them that caught a piece of that action. It all started about, well, let's say back up about the 15th, 20th spot or so, but a couple of guys got crossed up, and we'll check some replays to see exactly what occurred. But certainly 4 or 5 cars catching substantial damage over in turn number 1.
And this one didn't appear to be anything malicious. It looked like DJ Beverly's 42, 17th position at the time. A little bit high to turn 4, tags the fence, came down on the 71 as he tried to regain full control of his machine. And what he did, cut off the 71 machine to Dawson Fletcher, and they both slid up the racetrack and basically blocked it. Huge hit for the 8 machine, who got bounced around a couple of times. Krahula's car all but just thoroughly destroyed in that one after having no part of what happened, and that is going to be the night for Krahula. That car immediately behind the wall with a DNF.
And it's amazing how some of these wrecks happen and transpire, because there's a wake that happens almost after every crash in a turn or right before a turn. Leighton Seibel did not get any damage, and he was right behind it. And then you have drivers that were absolutely clobbered behind them. Like you said, James Krahula just had nowhere to go and just pounded the 71 car and then got destroyed from behind afterwards. And it's I think the 25 has a lucky horseshoe right now that he may have just used, but I mean, some of those guys got away scot clean somehow. In 57 of Seth the Merchant was looking to be one of those guys until he got tagged from behind as well.
So he pays so early in this one. Doucette, Crowder, Conrath 1, 2, and 3. But Matt Cooker has been the driver who has been impressing so far. No doubt that we expect him to be strong in these super late models. I know that it is not a points event, and it is also not a late model stock, the division that he has been overwhelmingly better in. Matt Cooker has not won in these cars since New Smyrna in April, but consistently there and continues to put down solid runs, and he's the biggest mover up 10 spots, at least inside of the top 10 at the moment. Should also note, for those of you who don't tune in week out and week, this is Christian Peterson's series. He had a 7-race win streak snapped in the first feature race in these SLMs a couple of weeks ago from Concord, but he did win the second one, so his streak does need a little bit of rephrasing. He's not undefeated, but he has won a super late model race every week since May the 10th in these cars, and this is the only race tonight in the super lates. He doesn't want that to die out, and he finds himself at 11th.
Anytime you can have a streak like that, it's something to brag about. And you're going to be a guy people look in the mirror and say, I got to either keep that guy behind me, or maybe I can learn something from him if he can get in front of me. Either way, all eyes are going to be on the 23 car here tonight. He had a solid run, the late model stock car, just a little bit ago. Now he's got this super up here, towards the top 10, but it's still a long way to go.
Restart could come with 129 laps to go for Myrtle Beach. A lot still to happen between now and the checkers, and that includes a second restart off of a caution flag. Another good one for Ryan Doucette after passing Crowder topside on the first. He has been picture perfect down low, clear of the 27 down to back straightaway. Crowder safely in second. The fight is behind for third.
Yeah, I was just about to say that Doucette really hasn't had any problems since the very beginning of the race. And to be fair, Ashton Crowder hasn't really either. And so they'll go side by side for the position behind. And it looks like maybe it's going to be Garrett. Not yet. It's clear off of Matt Cucker. Cucker's still trying that outside. He's been so good on it in the weeks past that I'd be surprised if he isn't able to get it. So he's still on the outside right here, trying to get that position on the outside. That's a difficult feat to make right now, and looks like Garrett Conrath, he's making him work for it here for third place.
Yeah, he's not letting him get around. Again, Kucker is somebody who, unconventionally compared to most, likes that outside of the racetrack, and the side-by-side is not helping out either of these folks. They need to single file it out sooner or later, and the 09 is finally going to check up and drop it back in line behind, and going to give Matt Kucker sole possession to third. Jeremy Adams was able to work his way right up to that fight as well, so he's not all that far off of it, but closest battle, at least to the top of the scoring pile, is for P6, Jeff Coate and Tommy Ryan, and they've got a lot of company behind him.
They do have a lot of company behind him. It's almost like a high-speed pace lap there behind him with Strakota, Wilkinson, Mullis, and Peterson all stuck there in the middle of that one. Jody Green is back there too in his Fury Race Cars machine. But this is what you expect early. Guys aren't going to charge too much too early. Now, of course, they do have a set of tires they can use at some point. We are now inside that pit window, but the way this goes, I have a feeling most of these guys are probably going to wait as late as they feel is humanly possible to take that set of tires to maximize how much they can use in the closing laps.
Big risk if you were to pit now. I think most importantly, not at this lap point, but under green flag conditions, is you can only do 35 miles an hour on the pit lane here at Myrtle Beach. You're going to lose a lap. And if you get stuck a lap down and we get a yellow, it is going to be a long night for you trying to get those spots back. Look at the 51, and there's going to be contact. The 16, Strakota out of shape. He will hang on. Coate not as lucky, and it is a mess.
Turn one. Oh my goodness. Huge wrecks we've had. This one I think was bigger than the last one. And I think Christian Peterson did get a little bit of damage, but everyone in front of him and behind him, say goodnight to the night, because a lot of the guys, wow, big damage on a lot of these machines. And I don't know what happened to the 33 machine, but I think he got turned before there was even a wreck happening. So unsure what happened to the 33, because it looked like that's Adam Benefield. We know a lot about him. It looked like all of a sudden he slowed down for the wreck. He slowed down and got tagged from behind.
And that often happens. Racetrack was blocked. If you can't find a place to go higher, to go low, you simply get on the brakes and somebody behind you is going to tag you, but he got spun coming down the front straightaway. Coate, I think, he squeezed the car on his outside a little bit. That was Strakota, who made a fantastic save, but a 51 was brought down the hill as the 16 split across his nose. He bounced off the 40 at Brandon Wilkinson, who has been good tonight in the late models and the super lates. Gets heavy damage to the engine of that car, and that's just on top of about 6 or 7 other guys that have got at least some pieces of damage at the incident in turn 1, and then of course Benefield and some other people who got damage further back in the field while trying to check up and avoid it.
Yeah, guys from all over kind of got a piece of that one, and miraculously, somehow Peterson, I think, may have missed it. He was about the first car in a line of about 20 that did not get a piece of it. Either way, though, really kind of shocking in a sense, because there's so much room into turn number 1. That's where all of this is happening, but by the same token, guys aren't able to get slowed down for these wrecks. I mean, in reality, and mind you, the sim world versus the reality is a whole different situation, but usually you're backing off about the flag stand. You shouldn't be charging into turn 1 that hard. You should have plenty of time to be able to figure out where you want to go and let the wreck play out, but tonight's incidents have, well, they've been exactly the opposite. Everybody has just been piling in Talladega style over in turn 1.
Pit lane is open, so drivers can start pitting. Drivers are down pit road. Ricky Hardin is in. Seth Merchant is in. Tanner Cook, Kyle Everalt, Christian Peterson, very notably in the pit lane as well. Many drivers down pit road, in all fairness, Coop, because of the damage that they got. I'm not sure that combining having to pit because the damage and your pit stop now would be the greatest of ideas, because you could have drivers on a fresh rubber. People could come down and pit 80 laps from now. They'll have much better tires than you at the end. Some drivers, I guess, could, in theory, have decided to take their fresh tires now. Wouldn't be my call, but maybe that's why I'm not on track driving.
Well, if you're on the track and it's going to be a green flag run the entire time, you'd assume lap 75 is when everyone wants to come in, because you'd have the best of both worlds. Obviously, that is not going to happen, and when you think about how it works out, you would have to assume that they're trying to get up towards the front before them, so that when they do get their tires, they can already be ahead of them. It's a track position deal, Tony, and I think that's just the way they're thinking about it right now.
Here's what I would do. I'd take tires now, put those scuffs back on late, and they only have 20 or 30. Oh, wait. They're all sticker tires. And this crap, they're at my strategy. Sorry.
The guys up front got equal tires, and we've got a restart due up. We'll see how they match up on this exchange. Doucette, 3 for 3. On the restarts, he clears the 27 to Sheeta Crowder. Crowder has been safely in second. I thought maybe Cucker was going to be able to get to his inside. He did not get an opportunity to do so. Single file, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The fight for 6th is on. Cucker gets loosened up, and we go 3 wide.
Oh, it's not going to work. Oh, big trouble.
Caution.
Now,
Tommy Ryan,
yeah.
He caught a piece of that one there, and it was just, again, off of turn 4, and that's where the car gets very light. You can pick up a push. There's a lot of room there, but unfortunately, it looked like maybe trying to keep that car off the wall, and Ryan caught a piece of it, and unfortunately, I think that was the Wilkinson ride that he got into, and it took them both down into the inside wall, but miraculously, it was only those 2 involved. Nobody bounced back out into traffic, as is so apt to happen with the wall, the way it juts out there, or at least angled towards the racetrack in turn 1.
Yeah, the wall comes right out to that white line as you dive into turn 1. We've seen a couple of drivers get out of shape this season over in the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series that bounce off that fence and get a lot of damage from it. Both of those cars did come to a rest in the grass. Ryan, though, did end up with the front end of that race car kind of swung back around onto the asphalt, so I think that's why the yellow flag does come out in this one, and we'll have more drivers down to the pit lane, primarily concerned with trying to get damage fixed on those cars. And we said that it wasn't going to be like the LCQ a little bit earlier on, and I think that is still true, but so a couple of yellows early on in this one, many of which have been stemming, to be fair, from good hard battles inside of the top 10. Last 2 have been big, but they have slowed things down here significantly now just at lap 38.
And with the multiple cautions that we're having, I think that coming down to pit road and getting those tires may not be such a bad idea. If you can at least think that we're going to have another one between now and lap 75. If you think that's going to happen, I think now is the time, since we just had a caution, now is the time, I think, if you're going to try a strategy, now is the time to do it, because you take it now, let's say we get to like lap 80 or 90 or so, and then they get tires again, you're about halfway on the tires if you were to just stay out anyways from the beginning of the race. So that might not be something that might not be a bad idea for some of these guys, but typically if you're trying that strategy, you're in the back. If you're in the back, I'd say at least at this point you've got damage. I mean, there's been some massive wrecks here in this race, and if you're trying a strategy now, it's basically your last ditch effort to try and get a win here.
Jeff Coach is going to receive a DOL penalty in that exchange, and he is going to park that car, so the 50-water machine is now done for the evening. You can add him to the list of DJ Beverly. Dawson Fletcher still on track, but 23 laps down and parked in the pit stall, may not return to the race, but I guess is not officially a retiree yet. James Krahula, we noted a little bit earlier, is out of this race. So about 3 or 4 drivers, depending on how you count those up, out of this race. Still a long ways to go, over 110 laps as of this time around. 20 drivers still scored onto the lead lap. Matt Cocker continues to be the biggest mover, up in 3rd position. But how about Mike Iannarelli? I think that actually Iannarelli and now Porter having gone 34th to 9th, and Iannarelli 31st to 10th now become the biggest movers inside of the top 10 as they've worked their way up.
Yeah, and still a long way to go, and those will be some guys to keep your eye on because they've been able to keep their cars relatively clean as we work our way towards the halfway point and get this green flag this time around.
Green flag going to come for Doucette. Crowder's been close, but no cigar the last couple of times, and it won't happen either this time. Immediately dives down behind the 77 to protect the inside of the racetrack, stand for the Matt Cocker, and kind of accepts the fact that Doucette is just too good on these restarts. Battle between Adams and Conrad to the 4th. The 89 machine is going to get that position, and the 09 now under fire. Here comes the 16. It's Strakota trying to come back.
Yeah, side by side here for 5th position right there, and good battle right there coming out of turn number 2. Then we got a log jam behind him. No wreck, but with those guys, yep, right behind the 89 of Jeremy Adams. They're going for it. 16 of Garrett Strakota trying the outside and working so far. Maybe a little bit of contact right there, but not enough to disrupt their battle. And he will actually get that position on the outside. Not a lot of guys have been able to do that tonight, and he's going to be on the small list of people who have so far been able to do it. So he'll put himself in the top 5, I think, for the first time tonight.
27 machine of Crowder made a little bit of a gamble, drove it in hard that time at a set of 3 and 4, a little bit slow off of the corner. Cocker was able to get to the bumper, didn't do anything with him at the time being. Big run to the outside, here you go, and the 27 is headed down pit road. He is coming in, penalty for changing lanes before the start finish line on the restart, and I commented on that when they went going that he didn't waste any time getting in line behind the 77, and if you were to take a second look, it would be quite evident that it was too early, and that'll be a penalty for him, basically taking him out of this thing.
That is a huge blow.
Yeah, that's big. And the thing is, this pit lane is so long, you're going to lose, as we mentioned earlier, at least 1 lap, if not 2. And Crowder decided to go ahead, come down, take his tires now, and try to make the most of it. So he's going to lose probably at least 2 laps in the exchange. It has gone from good to bad to now worse for Ashton Crowder.
We'll let you know when he's able to get back out onto the racetrack, but again, he'll be at least 1 lap down. To meanwhile, that means that the driver between Doucette and Cocker is gone, so Matt Cocker kind of inherits the number 2 spot on the racetrack, but he is 0.8 of a second off of Doucette up front, not in a position to really put up a good fight with him at the time being. Adams and Strakota, the 16 late dive to the inside, makes his way to the bottom, and they'll go door to door.
Jeremy Adams has had a nice night tonight with drivers on kind of doing those kind of moves. Not that they're dirty moves, but the fact that they're a little bit, they're later moves than what you would normally expect in turn number 1. It's a lot like Richmond, where you can kind of dive it down to the bottom and get under somebody. You're not going to have the drive off, but you'll get under them, and I think that's kind of frustrating to the 89, and he voiced that in the last race, and so he was able to pull away, but he has kind of definitely, I think, has those guys in the back of his head if that ever happens again, and definitely does not want that to happen again. I'm starting to think, though, for Ryan Doucette, at this point, with almost an entire second over Matt Cocker, he's got to lay back on the pace. Otherwise, he may start to burn off his tires a little bit here. Maybe like Connor Blaze did, but it's not going to matter because we're going to have a caution.
Just at 1/3 distance past lap number 50, the yellow flag is out in this one for about a 4th or 5th time tonight, and we're trying to let you know who was involved in this one, but we will check things up and hit the reset button on the battle for the race lead that had Doucette just getting to a 1-second advantage. Would have been the biggest advantage it had been all night long, and just trying to find the car that went around in this one. Nobody with obvious damage, maybe the 05.
Yeah, Scott Austin no longer on the racetrack as over in turn 3. He, well, actually, he was completely separate from the incident that actually happened, but it happened right behind him. One of the red, white, and blue cars, I think that might have been Brandon Wilkinson, got into the outside wall, and tough break that Wilkinson's night also kind of having gone from good to bad to worse.
Yeah, very similar car. It looks like it may be the 34 to Nick Ramsey. It was tough to tell because by the time the caution actually came out, he had already jumped that car back to pit road via the quick tow, so we didn't see him anywhere, but he was just got into the fence. Just a mistake, a different kind of mistake than what we saw with Crowder on a restart. But the 34 was trying to move, transitioning from the bottom to the top, and just got into the wall. And that car took a very weird spin as opposed to the front end going around. The back end came around, and it swung right in front of the 2 of Jonathan Smith. Ramsey got tagged, and that's where the yellow flag comes from.
Yeah, that was an odd one in the sim. That the wall, I think, kind of grabbed him a little bit and just turned him around, and I'm not sure exactly how you're able to really react to that as the 2 car. That's a shame for the 2. I do believe, I think he's in 21st position at the time, and he was looking to get back on the lead lap, but that was a really big that was a real bummer for the 2, and I think he's still gonna be fine. I think he's still gonna be out there, but it does look like he is on pit road getting some repairs done.
And one of the things that was interesting about that incident, guys, was the fact that this is something we actually saw in the mini stocks race here in the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series, because what happens is that backstretch, it juts out a little bit, and as a result, you know, the wall isn't completely straight. It's, you know, it's not Chicagoland where the entire thing is curved, but nonetheless, there's that little kink in there, and that's all it took for that car, and it just kind of gets hooked on there, and all of a sudden you see him turn around and lose all that speed. That was why.
So it involves him in an accident. He becomes the latest victim. He'll drop to the back, and we get set for another restart. The caution flag periods at Myrtle Beach, they kind of fall apart with what you would expect anywhere, 5 or so laps, but very quick. You don't have a lot of time to sit and dwell on what has happened or what's coming up at a restart. You got to restart after restart, and this time, for the first time, it's not going to be Crowder topside. Let's see if Matt Cucker can shake things up and challenge Doucette. Well, the simple answer is no. The 77 still so good on the throttle, clear to 1.
And they're going to go 3 wide behind him. It's not going to work out. It might for the time being, and it stays.
Oh, there they go.
Oh,
no. Matter of time, and he is up and over. Garrett Strakota.
Yeah, I saw that coming just the entire way. I mean, they just couldn't do it. It wasn't going to. 3 wide's hard to do on the front stretch alone, and on the back stretch, you'll see the camera angle. It's hard to do.
Well, it's certainly doable here. You just got to make sure everybody's on the same page. Again, this racetrack probably wider than most, plenty of room, and you don't carry a boatload of speed around this place. So again, you're able to make it happen. But the guy on the bottom, the guy in the middle, and the guy on the top all have to be aware of the situation. And it appeared there that not all 3 parties were on the same page.
And very different than what we saw in the incident just prior to this, where the car got into the outside wall, and it was the back end that came around. The 16 bounced off that outside wall. It almost reacted as if that right front tire climbed the wall a little bit, as it didn't really hit it at an angle. It was very flush, and it almost bounced up like that tire rode up the wall a little bit, and the front end of the car is in the air until it comes down, and when it lands, it's in the right rear quarter panel of the 13 machine. So other than simply not getting into the wall to begin with, which was very minor contact, Strakota had that wheel turn to the right, doesn't do anything if the front tires are in the air, and that 13 had nowhere to go. He didn't see that one coming, got tagged. They did a good job. Their spacing was good. Nobody was really crowding one another, and then to add insult to injury, not only was Strakota in the accident, he locks up the tires. That car flips up and onto the hood of the 13 in turn number 3, and Strakota's night's going to be done as he'll take the tow behind the wall.
When I start looking through this field of the drivers that are left, and I do say the drivers are left, about half the drivers that have started are still on the lead lap fighting for positions. And then you start to look about those drivers and who's up there, and you start to look at Jacob Porter, Mikey Inarelli, who have gained the same amount of spots. They started 34th and 31st respectively. And Mikey Inarelli, he's in the top 5 right now, and Porter, he's in the 8th position. So these guys, they've had some run-ins in this race, but definitely not as bad as some of these guys have had. We have our pole sitter still 2 laps down. I think that tire call was definitely what did him in, because it's going to be really difficult to get 2 laps back. You get the lucky dog, but to get 2 back, that's going to be a hard feat to do. So Ashton Crowder's night might be done from that rule violation here tonight.
He's not the only big driver who's had issues and is stuck laps down. Seth the Merchant is 22nd at a lap down. You got Strakota, who's added this thing now. Brandon Wilkinson 3 laps down in the truck down machine. So a lot of those names in tough spots. Christian Peterson on and off of the pit lane, relatively close to the halfway point in this race. The 23 came down to get some more damage repaired on that Peterson irrigation entry and will rejoin at the very tail end of the lead lap. Pace cars off and away. The 77 to Doucette going to bring us back and away once more. Cocker trying to figure him out on the restart. Nobody's really been able to. A little bit of a better job by the 69 team. Still not good enough to battle for the race lead in turn 1. They'll drop back single file, but side by side, third on back. Adams loose and now spinning behind.
Oh, boy.
Collins going to get tagged in the middle of the back straight away, and it's everybody.
Oh my gosh, this is, I think, the big one here tonight. And I think just about everyone about 4th, 5th on back at least had something to do with that one.
Guys, it's the same thing where we just see it's so wide off turn 2. You can get a good run up underneath a guy or on top of a guy or somewhere. There's plenty of room to do it, but everybody tries to swing out wide because of where that pit wall is. You don't have a big margin for error as far as getting the short way around the racetrack. I'm not sure whether that's exactly what occurred there, but it just seems like turn 2, everybody's getting their run, and they can't quite get it completed by the time they get down the back straightaway into turn 3.
And not to suggest that there is a right place to ride on the bottom and a wrong place to ride on the bottom, but if you just simply look behind Collins behind that 29 of Viatorelli, that on the 8 on the bottom was a little bit lower, the 25 was a little bit lower, so it did appear that Viatorelli, trying to get a little bit of a better run, got to the gas maybe a smidge too soon, was about half a car length up the track compared to everybody else, and that put him in line with the back bumper to the number 95 machine. They got sideways. Viatorelli did a pretty good job of hanging on. He did smack the inside wall and ended up down pit road, but the big hits came when the track was blocked to 13. Maybe one of the drivers who got the worst hit, and that racetrack was completely blocked top to bottom. Drivers had to come to a stop at the back straightaway as to not get involved.
Yeah, a lot of guys are going to be upset about it, but once it starts, there's not really much you can do about it. You know, those guys behind, they can try and slow down as much as possible. I mean, these guys are some of the best when it comes to late model and super late model racing. At times, there's just not a lot you can really do once the accordion effect starts. You can actually see that certain drivers are on it a little bit more, or on the brake pedal a little bit more than others. But you know, I'm looking at the 2, Jonathan Smith coming in late, and if you want to save your car for the end, you've got to have a little bit more heads up.
Viatorelli got a lot of damage, obviously, down the pit lane. He was kind of forced down the pit lane because he spun just to the inside of that wall, which, luckily for him, he didn't end up pile driving down in turn 3. Sharp angle with the barrels on the entry to that pit road wall that begins and hugs the inside of the racetrack all the way through 3 and 4. Again, could have been worse. But obviously, when you're stretching to find positives from yourself being involved in an accident, safe to say the night is not going how you would have liked it to. And we're now 10 laps away from cross flags. Only 15 drivers scored on the lead lap. There's a lot of drivers still in this race, 26 to be exact, but many of them have been caught a couple of laps down by being forced down pit road for services. Only 13 now on the lead lap, with more drivers pitting that time.
I think these guys are going to have the 1 to go this time by. It looks like they're doubled up, ready to go. Looks like we have 1 car on the inside. I think that's the Merchant who tried to get on pit road early, but looks like pace car is going to come back and go through the wall, which is kind of cool to see every once in a while. But race control has thrown the yellow flag back out, and the pace car will do some really cool stunts for us.
You gotta do what you gotta do. And the pace car was told to get back out in front of the field. So the pace car got back out in front of the field. He's doing the best he can. And the lights now go back out on top of it. So we'll try it again. As of this time around, still Doucette and Cucker on the front row. Still Conrath and Adams on row 2. Still Slate and now Benefiel slotted up into the battle in row number 3. But the top 4 have been as they sit now for quite some time.
Yeah, not a lot has really changed up there. And again, we're only in the mid portion of the race, so don't be surprised if they continue to ride. They still have to pit, and once you get tires, then business begins to pick up.
We'll see if the 69 can figure anything out or if it's going to be business as usual. Close it in on halfway to turn number 1. Doucette is clear. Cucker, though, instead of diving to the inside, tried the top. Did not work, and he will be able to maintain his spot as Conrath didn't have the best run at a turn number 2. But Conrath is clear of Adams. First time in a couple of restarts. This time, Adams under fire. Slate trying to work the bottom.
You know, I really like watching Matt Cucker on these restarts because he knows he's got an advantage on the outside. When he tries to go around Ryan Doucette in turn number 2, Doucette actually moves up the track to not just block it, but just kind of prevent him from getting a run. And I think that's a really smart idea from the 77 is when you start on the bottom, the momentum definitely is on the outside. And that's how Doucette got the lead in the first place, and he hasn't lost it since. So he knows how he can lose it because he took it away that way. And I just watching these two on the restart. No, it doesn't look like a whole lot, but Doucette's definitely protecting his position on these restarts pretty fiercely because he could just stay on the bottom, and I'd say that Matt Cucker would probably be able to pass him very easily on the outside as these guys are on lap 73.
Both drivers on the lead lap. There's battling going on top to bottom and in a battle for 8th position right now. Jody Green and Christian Peterson do battle. It's the closest side-by-side fight to the front. Guys up front still tightly packed together, but at least nobody side-by-side at the time being. And Peterson's car looking a lot sportier now that he has gotten a lot of damage repaired on it as he tries to work himself back up inside towards the top 5.
And if things work out the way that maybe he's trying to look for here, again, anything can happen. You're carrying a lot of speed here, but it's not a huge amount of speed. And of course, you've got chances and time to get the car repaired to make things work out for you. So as long as you're still on the lead lap at the end of this race, especially with the pit stops, this tire strategy, the whole deal, anything's possible, guys.
And Peterson now just came down pit road at lap number 75. That is right at cross flags. He's down. Matt Cucker, your race leader, also pitting right in the middle of the 4-stop window. You could pit between lap 25 and 125, but you have to pit at least once. And I'm surprised that a lot of guys up front deciding to pit under green, but your race leader is in. And now everybody on the radio, Conrath, who assumed the race lead, he'll be coming down pit road and put Adams in control for the moment as Slate pits as well.
I think this is because of fuel, because Benny Ellison just pulled it down the front straightaway, and he might have been out of fuel. So this definitely could be in favor of those people who pitted on the caution flag. I mean, we only have 5 cars on the lead lap right now. If you pit on the last caution or any caution before that, you're going to be out there on the track, and a caution could definitely change the way this race is. And even if you do pit now, are you going to be able to make all that track position up? I can't imagine that these guys didn't think of at least coming down to get fuel earlier. So I am unsure of how this race is going to play out, but Jeremy Adams has the lead, and then you've got Adam Benefield, Jody Green, and Garrett Conrath, and then the rest of the field's lapped.
And it would have made sense for me for Peterson to need fuel because he's been down oftentimes to get damage repaired, but obviously it's not a bad call because Cucker gave up the race lead. We saw Conrath give up the race lead. And for a race that has had so many yellows and such short green flag runs, to take a gamble where you need this cycle to go all the way through is quite the roll of the dice. Only 3 drivers on the lead lap. Most people who pitted losing 2 laps. Matt Cucker was leading. He is 9th position and 2 laps down at the moment. So that's quite the swing as we wait on Adams, Benefield, and Green to come down.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I agree with this whole pit under green thing. I mean, you still got plenty of time to get to the end. And again, all it takes is one mistimed caution. Your whole strategy blows up in smoke. I don't get what they're thinking here. It's a huge, huge gamble to pit under green like this, but we'll see how it all plays out. We've seen crazier things happen, but right now I think Adams, Benefield, and Green are sitting pretty, and even Ricky Harden for that matter, because if the caution were to come out, he would get the free pass, and we'd have 4 cars left on the lead lap. In the next 70 laps, I don't see guys unlapping themselves twice or even more. It's I'm kind of again mind blown right now.
And it's not like the guys up front have to rush to pit road. They still have 42 laps to decide to pit between now and lap 125, and they're 2 seconds to the good, so the gamble for them might be worth it. Let's stay out longer on the old tires. It might cost us time in the long run, but this race has not gone green for 45 laps at once. You can have drivers out there, fresh tires and old tires. According to what we've seen tonight, you're not going to go 45 laps green. If it does, the call's right by the drivers who short pit. But at the moment, no reason for Adams, Benefield, and Green, who all have still yet to come down to make their mandatory pit stop. No reason for them to drop back 2 laps down from everybody else. They are in a really good position right now to just ride for a little bit.
Yeah, definitely the case that these guys are just kind of riding, just kind of doing the laps that they need to try and setting a pace that's not too quick or too slow to conserve what they need to conserve, tires or just time in general. And if you are Ricky Harden, you're the only guy a lap down. I'm sure he will probably have to pit knowing the status of his race, but at the end of the day, if he pit earlier and doesn't have to pit the rest of the race, it could be good for him. We'll just have to wait and find out. And I think for us in the booth, it's just kind of a waiting game just to see exactly what happens, whether or not these strategies play out. And you've also got to think, and we talked about this on Monday for RSR, is the execution on pit road, coming in, coming out, not having any issues, not speeding. That could be a big deal too, is that this race could be won and lost off pit road, and that was I don't think we were really expecting that really in this race in particular.
And a courtesy of the short pits and all that, it's not as easy as saying that, Matt Cucker would assume the race lead once more. The drivers 2 laps down make up the group of drivers who came down and took their 4 tires. So first driver 2 laps down right now is Garrett Conrath in 5th, then Ryan Doucette in 6th, then Rafe Slate 7th, and then Matt Cucker in 8th. So Cucker falls from the race lead, at least up front in this thing, chasing down what had been the dominant car on the night in Doucette to 4th, having get jumped by Conrath and by Slate, who made a better call.
Yeah, we're seeing that 33 pit right now of Adam Benefield, so he's going to come down and get that service, and he'll be, he started coming down pit road in 2nd position, so we'll see.
And caution!
13 of Joey Green just
wow. Guys, this works out so good for Adams and Benefield. They may lose to 1 lap to the field, but they're going to emerge as they're both on pit road as the leaders on their own lap. Maybe a couple of other guys will have a shot at being on the lead lap depending on how all this works out with pace cars and then some, but this may have just put them in the catbird seat. Fresh tires in front of the field with, 60 laps to go.
And that's going to count as their stop. We're able to make it in time. The yellow comes out for Devin Morgan, who got into the outside wall, and that car just looped around, very similar to an incident we saw not all that long ago. So many drivers are going to be brought back to the lead lap. It looks like Ricky Harden scored in the lead. You got Conrath, Doucette, Slate, and Cocker. So maybe, just maybe, for those drivers who had finally decided to make the call down to the pit lane, that the time on the pit lane wasn't short enough, and that they may end up on the same lap as everybody else. And if it does, that's a huge break for the likes of Harden, Conrath, and Doucette, because if that yellow came out literally any lap before it did, they would be stuck laps down, and they may, by a stroke of luck, be able to cycle back through up front.
Amazing how some of these things turn out to be, and going through and seeing what happened, it looks like he just kind of got loose off the corner and got in the wall like you said. But these guys, it looks like 13 of them will be on the lead lap, but the guys with the freshest tires, they're actually right in the middle of all this. So I'm just kind of at a loss of words to see that this is how it's kind of playing out so far. I'm pretty shocked. I did not expect any of this to happen, and right now we're getting drivers being waved around to just make the clutter of all the cars in front of the leader and between the pace car, having all those guys being cycled through. So that's why guys are past the pace car right now. But to be honest, I mean, Nick Ginarelli, he's the first driver behind the pace car, so he'll get a wave around, and we're just trying to find out who was going to be first. And it looks like maybe Ricky Harden.
Harden's going to be able to hang on. Wave buys are going to be for Crowder, Adams, Peterson, Benefiel, Iannarelli, Young, and Sibile. So those are the drivers who, many of which, I guess all three of which you had stayed out that we were talking about, are in that group. So they're not going to lose a lap. They just aren't going to be able to maintain the top running spots, because that'll cycle through to the drivers who had earlier completed the pit service under green: Harden, Conrath, Doucette, and company.
And guys, here's one of those things we talked about it earlier, about how there could be different strategies that play out depending on how all of this works. I don't think anyone expected there to be a caution in the middle of green flag stops and a couple of guys get lucky with how it all played out. However, Ricky Harden took tires early, if memory serves me, kind of ran around a lap down, 2 laps down, and all this worked out into his favor. He's probably got some of the older tires of anyone in the field, but he's got track position, and as we have seen, the older the tires get, the longer you get into a run, the harder it becomes to pass. So he might even be the guy who's sitting pretty at the moment.
And as we come to 54 laps to go, is that going to be too much time for the 21 to play defense in front of some fast cars behind him? He's got the restart down. Green flag flies, and we go back and away, and he is slow on the inside. He'll take a shot from Doucette, but topside may be the place to be. Here comes Garrett Conrath, and easily to the lead. The 21 pushed out of the way.
Something's wrong with him. Yeah, he comes immediately down to pit road. It's yeah, he must not have taken tires or something, because he's coming down for his service. I'm unsure why he didn't come down, but that only hurt Ryan Doucette, who had a great charge right behind him. And so he's going to be fighting with Matt Cucker right now, and they're going to be fighting, and I think that's a really, really big shame for Ryan Doucette, who had such a strong car, not getting passed by Matt Cucker for the 3rd position, and Cucker's going to go on to try and pass Rafe Slayton, Garrett Conrath, and that 69 had a really good car all night, but man, what heartbreak from that 77 right now.
Yeah, being stuck behind him is going to cost him 2 positions. He falls to 4th. He's got a front row seat at the battle for 2nd. Slade on the outside of the racetrack. Cucker on the inside. That is maybe one of the best opportunities that Cucker has had. Not able to do it. But look at the 77 Ryan Doucette. Had been leading this race up until the exchange of pit stops. Now finds himself 4th in this group. Everybody up front has pitted, and they could go green for the next 50 laps to the end of this race without requiring any other service. So Doucette has not really had to deal with traffic tonight. Started 2nd, quickly to the race lead in front of Ashley Crowder, made that work on the outside of the racetrack, and ever since has been in clean air. He has not been in traffic, and he's trying to find a way to make that car work around other race cars.
And sometimes that's the hard part. If you're around guys you haven't been racing with, or maybe they've got a little bit different line that you're used to using, they're taking yours away, so to speak. It can take you a little bit of time to find one that works for your race car. And speaking of making things work, guys, I'm surprised that Adams and Benefiel have yet to make those new tires work for their machines. Things didn't quite play out maybe the way they suspected, but by the same token, it wasn't that many laps prior that everybody else came down to make their green flag stop. So while they have an advantage, it may not be as big of an advantage as we originally had surmised.
Other drivers to include in this is Ashton Crowder. He has had a big pickup courtesy of getting that car fixed over the course of the night. He's back inside of the top 5, maybe short-lived. Jeremy Adams going to go to the inside. Looked like Crowder got a little bit loose the last time around in the Tallarico machine, and it opened up the door for the 89. It's a battle for 5th and 6th position. It is well off for the guys up in the top 4, though. The top 4 separated by only 0.6 of a second. That fight for 5th is over 2 seconds behind.
Yeah, and Matt Cucker just got himself by Rafe Slate, who's now going to keep going on and try and get Garrett Conrath for position, and Slate looks like he might have had a little bit of fall off on those tires. All of a sudden, he's lost almost 2 positions. Doucette's on the outside, going to probably make the pass here. And now our eyes kind of go to the front here. Garrett versus Matt here in turn number 4, and Cucker's going to try the outside move like he always does. Doesn't have it. Yes, he does. He has the nose on the outside line. We're going to try and see the outside pass from Cucker here. And I think if he knows what he's doing, he'll probably get the pass executed here and maybe a couple corners. But Garrett Conrath still trying to hold him up. But Not enough speed. I say that he might have him out of the corner. He'll clear him. New leader, the 69 machine.
Matt Cocker has finally completed the charge to the front. I said it earlier, looking for his first super late model win since April. At the new Smyrna Speedway, this has been Christian Peterson's series. Peterson runs in 8th position. He is on the lead lap, and that car looks a lot better than it did 50 laps ago, but damage has all but taken him out of competition for tonight's win, unless he can pull something out of the hat late in this one, and it leaves Matt Cocker in a position where this would be huge if it was for points, but this is a non-points paying event for Cocker. All he can do is take the money and the bragging rights, which never hurt anybody. Far away, though, from locking this up. He may have cleared Conrath, but the 09 is still right there, and he's now being hit hard by Doucette to the bumper, wanting to make him pay.
Got to be careful, though. You don't want to deliver something that you could reap before harvest time sets in at the checkered flag. So if you're going to use the bumper here, you got to do it very discreetly, very minorly, and make sure it's something where a guy understands that, yeah, maybe he was holding you up and doesn't feel any ill will, because if he does, you can bet he's probably going to pay you back when it comes closer to time to go to the pay window.
Here he goes to the inside, is side by side for second. It's obviously into Doucette's best options to be able to get around the 09 nice and quickly, and he does. Didn't look like Conrath wanted to put up much of a fight, maybe thinking if he stayed topside and fought with the 77, Slate, who's right there in 4th, would have had an open invitation to go to his inside. So the 77 moves up to 2nd position. So now we have an invert of what we had about halfway back through this race. It's Doucette now chasing Cocker as opposed to vice versa. And the 77, last time by, fastest on the racetrack.
And he actually passed a car during all of that too, so he's faster while being on the inside of another driver. I'd say it's gonna get interesting here soon. He is a little bit faster that time too. He's closing the gap on Matt Cocker. 77's coming into the picture, and that's not the only battle that's going to be on track either. There's lots of, or there was action for that 5th position. It looks like it's dissipated a little bit, and then everyone else is kind of spread out. So keeping our eyes up front, because that lead is still starting to drop. They almost had identical times that last time by a 1/1000th of a second. So really close times. These guys are really fast here on this track. Still sub 20s.
It was a 2:37 for Cocker and a 2:38 for Ryan Doucette. This time by, both of them going to go quicker, but Doucette found an extra 1/10 of a second, so he is faster, not by a scorching margin, but if you're consistently quicker than somebody, 35 laps to go to race should be more than enough to be able to get to him. I'm noticing, and you saw it that time before, Cocker driving a lot deeper into the corner and a lot wider of an arc off of 4. 77 keeps it a lot lower in the corner, better on entry, but a little bit slower on exit.
Yeah, the key here to Myrtle Beach is you do not want to charge the entry to the corner too hard. Yeah, it might pay off in the short run, but in the long run, you will make the car tight. You will scrub off those front tires. So exit is key here. You've really got to baby the car on entry, let it rotate, ease yourself back to the throttle, and over the course for a long run, that's probably the most effective way to negotiate the layout here on the Grand Strand.
Only 11 drivers are working on the lead lap late in tonight's Cars eSport Tour Fall Brawl, presented by ProTech Custom Gear LLC, your go-to place for quality products and service in the high-demand defense market. ProTech specializes in high-quality custom holsters and firearms training. You can visit ProTechCustomGear.com for all your defense needs. Again, ProTech is PROTEQ CustomGear.com, making tonight's coverage from the Myrtle Beach Speedway possible, and this time by 30 laps to go. And Cocker works the biggest advantage he's had in quite some time, courtesy of that 77 slipping up a couple of laps.
Yeah, he's definitely lost a little bit of time that time, and I think that was a lot more than I was expecting. If he was going to lose any, he lost about half of what he had. You know, he had got him and reeled him in about 0.35, and now he's 0.65, so almost doubled. But go back and look at this battle for the 5th position or the 4th position and throw that all out the window. Caution flag out on the racetrack, and I see Ricky Harden at 21. He was slow, so it might have been him.
It was him.
There. Yeah, it looks like that
we
same
followed
problem.
him drop off of the lead lap, and he gets into the fence, and it brings the rear end of the race car around, and it looked like it was going to spin out anyways, but that 7 machine was right there, Tony, tagged him in the rear, and we've seen it a couple of times tonight. Somebody gets out of shape, whether it's just loose off of the corner or up against the fence, and they're going to go around anyways. There's just somebody behind him who can't go anywhere and finishes him off, but Harden definitely was in trouble on his own down the back and loops it around once or twice, brings out the yellow from 14th position. Not what Matt Cocker wanted to see at all.
No, certainly not. What you got to remember with Harden is that he was already trying to hustle, maybe a little too much, because he had come in early after that restart, or during that restart, I guess it would be, to come and get 4 brand new skins. So he was trying to make up the deficit that he had in front of him. And unfortunately, the caution that he really wanted to see was him around in turn number 3.
So just as he had been working to the positive end of an interval that grew to 0.8 of a second, Matt Cocker loses all of that. Ryan Doucette's going to have an opportunity at a late race restart. Garrett Conrath is in this thing, so he has, I think, his best opportunity tonight to battle for the race lead. And even with Slayton Adams inside of the top 5, I would argue that this thing is far from over. And we go from talking about a 150-lap endurance event to back into the mindset that we had earlier tonight in the LCQ. And that is, it is going to be a shootout to the end.
Yeah, 25 laps to the finish here when they come by the stripe the next time. And yeah, another shootout. And really got to believe that if you've been holding a trick card or something up your sleeve, now would be the time to show it. You know, we've got a lot of players here, and 11 cars, maybe 10 cars if late, and then the 25 can get back up there. About 22 seconds behind these guys on the lead lap on the cautions side, so I don't know if he's a lap down or not, but nonetheless, there's a lot of players still up here. You've got Matt Cocker, Ryan Doucette, Garrett Conrath, Rafe Slayton, Jeremy Adams in your top 5. Then Ashton Crowder and Adam Benefield have come back, and you can't forget Christian Peterson, Kyle Young, and Mike Anarelli here still in the top 10. So a lot of drivers still in this. Whether they can get up there to do anything about it, that's a different thing.
And we've been talking about how the race winner in this, having it been a non-points event, gets the bragging rights and the cash. Well, the $85 purse is split amongst the top 10, with $25 going to the race winner, $15 for second, $10 to third, and then $5 for everybody through the top 10. So as it sits now, only one driver on the lead lap wouldn't walk away with at least something. Nobody wants to be that guy, and right now it's Sibele back at 11th position, so just keep that in mind, that the difference between first and second is obviously a race win, but it's $10 on the line. It's quite the jump compared to the intervals between the other spots, so these guys might get a little bit creative, shall we say, as we head late in this race. With less than 25 laps to go for Myrtle Beach, maybe one more time. Matt Cocker trying to go back-to-back and sweep the night. Ryan Doucette's got other plans. Green flag in the air.
You think it's a really good restart. We saw what happened when he was on the outside starting row at the very beginning of this race. He was able to power off. He's able to do the same thing right here. He'll be side by side with him going into turn number 3, and he's not going to let him go. Matt Cocker's good line is the outside, and he pushes up the track just a little bit. Not quite yet. Still there on the outside.
69 has no intentions of giving Doucette any more real estate than it needs. You can see Cocker walking it up off of the white line, trying to squeeze the 77 right on each other's doors. This time the 3. The 69, a lane up at the bottom of the racetrack, trying to crown Doucette, who will not go away.
Doucette's doing a really good job of making the outside lane work. He hasn't quite had the exit off 4 the last couple times, but every time he's learning, and that time in turn 2, took what he learned, able to nose ahead. Now he's got that wider entry in 3, gets the car to rotate, beats Cocker back to the gas. It is a dead heat at start finish, and those guys trading some paint. It is getting big time crazy here at the front of the field.
And Gary Conrath is licking his chops from third. Even a race late, if the top 2 take each other out, that battle for third could be for the checkered flag. Still side by side. We have seen drivers make the outside work. More contact that time over the course of the night, but nobody has been as stubborn as Doucette. He can't get it that time, though. And finally, Cocker clear with 18 to go.
What a battle, but still not over yet. You know, these guys can still get back up there, and he could probably get under him, but he does have to worry about Conrath now behind him. And I'd say if these guys start battling, it could be over for the battle for the lead if they continue to work that way. But looks like the yellow flag is going to come out once again, so we'll re-stack him, re-rank him, and try this again.
Just as Doucette vaulted on the outside, he's going to have another opportunity to go right back at it. This time it's issues with Leighton Siebele, was running in 11th position. A heavily damaged car and looked like the 7 lap machine was trying to get around him, and Leveralt went to the inside, and at 25 was kind of swerving side to side trying to hang on, and that'll be the night for Leveralt, who will get the EOL penalty, and it only makes the night's worse for Siebele, who runs in the number 11 position because, again, continues to run in the only spot on the lead lap that would not pay out points. But his long night continues. Could be worse. 18th then back is behind the wall and out of this thing, but definitely not an enjoyable night for a driver who came into this, I'm sure, expecting to be competitive for the top spot.
No, you really don't want to see that from the guys who are lap down. You know, seeing that the 7 didn't really have the run quite yet into the corner, and finding a guy who was on the lead lap, and I think you could argue that the 7 had the run, but you know, it's kind of one of those. If they were fighting for position, I don't think I could really place blame, but the 7, I think, knew in a way that going in the corner like that versus the lead lap car may not have been might not have been the right decision, but nonetheless, it's going to send those 2 guys around, and I think that's going to be the end of the night for the 7, and that's going to still only have us with 11 cars in the lead lap.
So Conrath wasn't able to make up anything, and if there's any hope of the guys third out of back fighting, side-by-side fight like we just saw would be their best opportunity. But Ryan Doucette knows what Matt Cucker can do, and I think that Matt Cucker is much more acutely aware of the 77. I don't think he was expecting that hard of a challenge.
Probably not, but again, we've seen the top side work. You can really make it work to your advantage if you're able to pinch the other guy down. Now, the difference here is that Cucker's in charge of the restart. He'll be the control car. Doucette, not so much. But if he can stay right on him, if he can keep a bumper outside that bumper cover or the quarter panel, he can kind of play a little bit of spoiler in the sense that he can pinch the 69 car down, try to break some of his momentum, and Doucette may actually be in the more advantageous position. Again, all this is dependent upon winning that drag race to turn 1 if you're the 69 car of Cucker. But again, anything can happen, especially as we close in on the final laps of this one. It'll be 13 to go this time when they cross, meaning if you've got anything, it might be a little questionable, but you might as well go ahead and try it.
So it looks like Siebele is going to join to back up at 11th position, and we will maintain that number of cars on the lead lap. All eyes, though, north on the scoring pylon. Going to be 12 laps to go from Myrtle Beach Speedway to decide tonight's championship. eSports Associated Cars, the eSport Tour Fall Brawl, presented by ProTech Custom Gear. Cucker still on the outside of the racetrack. Doucette this time going to find himself on the bottom with Conrath, Slate, and Adams fighting inside of the top 5. Is this the final restart on the night? The 69 is off and away. Green flag flies at a much better jump this time.
Yeah, that outside line's working really well for Matt Cucker. That's where he wants to be, and he'll get the lead. Not quite clear, but Doucette's going to keep trying that inside line. They go side by side for that second spot. Slate and Conrath still fighting, and then you've got Ashton Crowder trying to mix it up there too, but that lead has now gone down single file, and looks like Conrath wanted to get a little bit more that time, but didn't have quite the edge, and that lead is not going away. That lead battle is not changing. It's still there. It's still close. We'll have 10 laps this time by.
They're leaning on each other in the battle for fourth. Crowder trying to get up against Rafe Slate, and he's really loose at the bottom with that damage. The 98's got to be careful. Topside is a very vulnerable position. I was almost surprised that Cucker took the top, because when you let Doucette on your bottom, he can push you up. That's what Cucker was doing to the 77 when that driver was on his outside, but it looked like Doucette held the bottom a lot more consistently. Cucker was able to stay clear. They look pretty even at the moment, but even is not going to win the race for Ryan Doucette.
even is not going to win the race, and for that matter, trailing the lead car is not going to win the race. But again, he's been trying things. I've noticed the lead two, their lines differing lap after lap, corner after corner, and Doucette seems to be trying that wider and wider entry into turn one. Kucker's starting to pick up on that just a little bit. It's paid a little bit of dividends down the back straightaway, but not enough really to retire on by any means. But continue to watch these top three as they continue to shake it up and continue to mix it up. Somebody's going to try something, and it's either going to work or there might be a massive catastrophe when it doesn't.
Next time by, 6 laps to go, going to be knocking on the doorstep with a point-to-no return, as always, at 5 laps to go or less. So Doucette, if he needs a yellow, it has to happen out. Other than that, you got to pony up and get up and on him. It's a 2/10 of a second and a 2-car length gap as of that time by the line. Conrath has been able to maintain third. Crowder did jump up to fourth in front of Slate. That is a battle that is ongoing for fourth on back, but all lies up front with 5 to go this time.
Doucette's got to try something here. He's got to try and get closer or dig deeper down in the corners. He's only losing time each and every lap, and he's digging a little bit more inside on the entrance, but on the exit, he's just getting his doors blown off here. I just don't think that he's got to be able to have the tires to do it here, and he'll have only a few more laps to try some different things. And all the while, you've got Conrath, who might just take that position away if he is able to get to his back bumper, and then it really won't be a game for that lead, as we do have a battle for the 5th position behind them, and it's a good battle. Looks like the 89 tried to get in the inside of the 95 right there. Ray Slate and Jeremy Adams doing battle, and he gets him a nudge right there out of turn number 4.
I mean, he sent him into the corner and a bump and run. Going to put Adams to the inside. He's trying to make up some late race positions. All of these drivers still doing battle. Peterson there as well. Sideways is Slate. He will hang on, and we stay green to 2 to go.
2 laps to go, and while things are picking up for about 4th, 5th, 6th on back, battle for 2nd now begins to heat up. It appears Doucette has used everything up he's got, and now he's got to use it all up to try to hang on to the runner-up spot. Meanwhile, that's the best thing Matt Cooker can see, because out of turn number 4, white flag is in the air. One final trip around the Myrtle Beach half mile.
And side-by-side battle cost Doucette another 2/10 of a second. He is well out of range of a late race dive bomb. And Matt Cooker coming in clutch when it matters the most and clear of traffic. Going to come into turn number 4. He'll take the checkered flag and win the Cars eSport Tour Fall Brawl tonight from Myrtle Beach Speedway.
And wow, back-to-back, like you said earlier, and he has definitely done it basically undefeated in the past 2 weeks, and he makes it known that he is definitely king when it comes to these late models, super late models. And the only person that's in comparison, I think, to him is Christian Peterson. We've already noted multiple times throughout the last few months of the dominance that both these drivers have had. And while he burns it down right in front of us, I think we just get to... I think the biggest thing about tonight was the challenge that these guys were going to have. Not knowing that they were going to win the race, but if they were going to fight for the lead, for the win, who would be there to challenge? And I was really, I think that sated my appetite for the night on the competition.
And again, it had been Peterson in these cars not going a week without a win since April. That streak is now officially broken. It is not for points, so the technicality can remain that he hasn't not won a points race since April. But Matt Cooker, I think, a statement race tonight after Christian Peterson won 3 of the 4 races we had a couple of weeks ago from Concord. Cooker takes both the late model stock points race, which adds to his championship lead going into the final race of the season. And while this win does not close the gap in the super late points at all, a statement race. He had the Ted Christopher Memorial decals on that number 69 machine and all, and he had a masterful race. And as we talked to him before the first one and after that one as well, I think controlling his car on a racetrack that he's very familiar with is why he was at his best at the end.
Well, of course, it's all about making sure you've got it all there for the end of the race. You can use it all up early. You can worry about qualifying. Clearly, he did not. He had enough speed to make it in the show earlier, but he focused on the end of the run, having something left in those final few laps, and that's all it takes to win here at Myrtle Beach, is focusing towards the end of the race, because ultimately, that's where it all is going to pay off.
We'll have an opportunity to chat with him at Victory Lane in a moment. First, let's take a look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results at the conclusion of this 2017 Fall Brawl Invitational. Matt Cucker gets the win after starting 14th on the grid. Holds off Ryan Doucette, who for much of this race looked like he was all but set. Cycled the pit stop, cycled 10 back, was able to fight back up to P2. It's exactly where he started. It's also where he was in warm-up earlier tonight, but it's as high as he could get. And Doucette comes home in the runner-up spot tonight and will walk away with $15. Garrett Conrath in third, going to get the $10 prize for third, and the rest of the top 10 with a $5 payout. That includes Ashton Crowder, who started on pole position, coming home in fourth, and Jerry Adams, who was best in warm-up, coming home P5. Christian Peterson, Kyle Young, Adam Benefiel, Rafe Slate, and Mike Ederelli round out your top 10.
And coming up empty-handed will be 11th place Leighton Sibile, and then you've got Seth the Merchant, Tanner Cook, Jacob Porter, Devin Morgan in the top 15, and Kyle Everalt 16th, Ricky Harden 17th, Dalton Collins in the 18th position, and Jody Green, Nick Ramsey will finish out the top 20, 19th and 20th.
In Tinamid 3, you got 21st, and again, these drivers are double-digit laps down and well out of this thing, but you got Justin Linsden in 21st, Benny Ellison in 22nd, Dawson Fletcher 23rd, Tommy Ryan 24th, and Connor Blaze in 25th, Jonathan Smith in 26th, Blake Neer in 27th, Brandon Wilkinson, Garrett Strakota, and Scott Austin through 30th.
And the last four drivers finishing out tonight, Jimmy Mullis, Jeff Coate, and then you've got DJ Beverly and James Krahula, 31st, 32nd, 33rd, and 34th.
To look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results, looking to catch up now with your race winner in tonight's Fall Brawl for the Myrtle Beach Speedway. He did it earlier tonight in the points race, and he did it tonight in this spectacular. Matt Cucker is your winner of the 2017 Cars eSport Tour Fall Brawl, presented by ProTech Custom Gear. Matt, congratulations on this one. First off, just talk about this race. You guys started mid-pack, did a good job, though, of working your way up to the field. You beat Ryan Doucette in this race. That's somebody who you trailed for a lot of this race in the middle portions.
Yeah, I knew we were starting in the middle of the pack somewhere, and I was kind of worried about getting to the front, but at the beginning there, everyone was fighting for the bottom, and I was just able to roll the top. And that was pretty much it. I could just roll the top of people and just drive right around them, and I don't know if they couldn't figure it out or what, but whew, that was a tough one. I mean, Ryan was out front there, and I couldn't run him down. I couldn't do anything, and I think that was due to running it harder at the beginning of the race. And then finally there, after the pit stop, he got out in front of me again, and on a restart, there was somebody that didn't pit, and it held him up a little bit, and I was able to get back to his outside and drive around him. And then this race was just so long. Later on in the race, there, that one restart where I was on the bottom, I didn't know we could pick lane choice, and it really hindered me there. And I had to race him a little dirty. I wouldn't say it was rough, but I had to run him up the track a little bit to steal his line, and I would expect that from him too if that was the case, because this is racing here, and we're going for the win. But that was a tough one.
Looking back on that restart that he got stuck back, would you look at that as the turning point in this? Because late, he was right there with you, and I think it ended up being what was the second to last restart was on your outside before you crossed up the lanes, and he was right there for 6-7 laps nonstop till you finally cleared him. You guys were leaning on each other, you're bouncing off each other, and both cars finished the race, so there's not much more that we could ask for as a fan of short track racing, but it definitely looked like, at least at that stage, that you're being the control car and in front was no advantage, and at that point was 50-50.
It was definitely the bottom line, because there was like no bite left down there, and that's how he got to my outside. And on that restart, I spun the tires. I was thinking I was in the late model stock, and I hit the clutch before I took off, and it just loosened me right up, and he was able to stay out there the whole time. And then I mean, it was short track racing, but it could have been a little bit cleaner on me, and it was I wouldn't say we have a rivalry, but we've raced each other a bunch of times, and it's always fun racing against Ryan.
I know that this one wasn't for points, but if you look at the general, selection of things here, a couple of weeks ago, last time we were out at Concord Speedway, Christian won both of the late model races. What a super late model race, and just kind of dominated in that week. And you guys come back, I think, here tonight with a statement. You help yourself out in the points of the late models. You are unable to pick up on that 31-point deficit in this series because it was a non-points race. But you go from a week where he got 2 wins, you come into tonight with 2 wins and kind of set the tone late. What's it mean for you to be able to get the win, not only in both divisions, but I think on top of all of that, with the fact that we had double the size of a normal field?
Yeah, I mean, this one was definitely a tough one, but with the fixed set, I knew I was going to be somewhat decent, more decent than a thing, because Christian's always super fast with the open sets, and I don't know what he's doing in these super late models. He just beats me every time, and I can't figure it out. But with the fixed set, I knew everyone was on a level playing field, so I knew what I had to do to save tires, and so I think it's the first time I beat Christian this year so far, maybe the second one in the super late model, so it's a big one for me.
We'll let you get out of here. You have some celebrating to do. You walk away with the check, the $25 for winning.
On the late model stock side, it is a 3-way fight between Lane Riggs, son of former Cup driver Scott Riggs. He is leading the points by 4 over Josh Berry and 9 over Anthony Alfredo. So you have the independent team trying to hold off 2, not 1, 2 drivers out of Junior Motorsports for Dale Earnhardt Jr. And both of those guys, well, they are hungry. And for that matter, so is Lane Riggs. He ran the weekly show there this past weekend to try to get some laps, whereas Josh Berry and Anthony Alfredo did not. So he may have something up his sleeve, but certainly a heck of a championship battle between those 3 drivers. And on the super late model side of things, Kyle Busch Motorsports with driver Cole Rouse, they enter with a slim 8-point lead over Brandon Setzer. And yes, that's the son of former Truck Series and Xfinity Series driver Dennis Setzer. He's only 8 markers back to get a championship in the balance between those 2 drivers. It's going to be a dandy, if for no other reason but that, to see who's going to come out on top with the 3rd annual Cars Tour Championships for both the Super Late Model Tour and the Late Model Stock Tour. But South Boston always provides great racing with a brand new pave job. We expect nothing less than a fantastic show to end the year, especially from the Late Model Stock guys who have been impeccable week after week after week after week with 2 wide, 3 wide, sometimes quite literally a 4 wide finish as we had back in July at Tri-County. So you don't want to miss it. If you're anywhere within driving distance from South Boston, you can get your tickets and information online at carsracingtour.com on how to pick up tickets. There are advanced tickets available as well through the racetrack. And if you cannot make it, I would certainly encourage you to do this. My company, Pit Row Media and TV, we broadcast all of the Cars Tour races. You can check those out by going to the same website many people are watching on right now, and some are watching through iRacing, so they may not be on there, but it's very simple. You go to carstour.tv, and for 1 low monthly subscription, you get access to the entire Cars Tour library, the live races, the on-demand races, and during the off-season, there will even be some bonus races thrown in there for the subscribers, things like go-kart events. In fact, we have a modified race in West Virginia coming up in a week's time that will be part of the bonus races in that subscription as well. So we certainly encourage you to check us out one way or the other. And for all the information on the Cars Tour, you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever else you could pretty much think of. We're on there. And of course, our website is at carsracingtour.com. Encourage you to come join us at a race or 2 or 6 or 10. And if you cannot, as we said, tune us in at www.carstour.tv, and you can check every single lap out as it happens live each and every tour stop.
And if you forget any of that, make sure if you're following with us on the socials, we will keep you updated with that as the weeks go on and we head into October. But not to get ahead of ourselves at our schedule, we are not done this week at LSRTV at iRacing Live. We have a doubleheader coming up this Friday, getting kicked off at 6 o'clock Eastern Time with the Dixie Paving and Sealing Super Late Model Showdown 250. That one coming to you from Southern National Motorsports Park. And then, of course, to close out the evening with our regularly scheduled programming, 9 o'clock at the East Coast, the Super Speedway Cup Series continues here on the iRacing Live. If you want to take a look at our full extended broadcast schedule, you can log on to www.livesimracing.com for more information, or keep up to date with us on Twitter at LSRTV and on Facebook at facebook.com/LSRTV official for more information. Until next time, though, on behalf of the entire team at Live Sim Racing LLC, for the folks behind the scenes, DJ Lyon, Laura Lawson, everybody who makes it happen topside night in and night out. And of course, for the broadcast team tonight, for Tony Stevens, Austin Coop, myself, Evan Pasoko, and our producer, Cisco Scaramuso, I want to thank you for joining us and congratulate Matt Cocker. He is your champion of tonight's Cars eSport Tour Fall Brawl, presented by ProTech Custom Gear LLC. The Myrtle Beach Simulation Series returns in 1 week's time right here at LSRTV, but the Cars eSport Tour Championship is less than 1 month away. It takes place in the upcoming October the 18th from the South Boston Speedway. That race and every race of this Cars eSport Tour can be found right here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Until next time, good night.